continue to evaluate so that we can get back to the things we want to do
and keep at them.
If we all go back to everything we want to do and fall back into another wave, well,
nobody's going to be very happy with each other on that one. So
getting that balance right and showing how we're able to continue to be patient as Canadians and do the right things, that's what matters.
Not yet. Not yet. You're not considering it yet.
And my first part of the answer was, we're considering everything every step of the way.
We're considering everything every step of the way.
We continue to evaluate and reevaluate based on the
how were you all doing how were you all doing until I played that clip? Let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if the video is good. Am I in focus? Just so everybody knows right off the bat, this is going to be an hour without Salty. Salty is joining us at 3 o'clock with Barnes. I said I'm going to go live early for a few reasons. We only have a 1 hour with Salty Cracker, and I wanted to make sure that the crowd was here. Everyone had been warmed up, and I also had a lot to talk about. Yes. I want to hug. I want to puke. I'm going to get back to that in a second. I saw 2 big super chats coming, and I haven't even gotten to the warning yet. Can't believe people are characterizing Johnny's text as dark humor. What is so funny about... Didn't see that part. I'm not watching the Johnny Depp trial. I was tuning in and out. Yeah, well, dark humor. I'm not sure that they show what people think they want them to show, at least as far as Amber's case is concerned, but whatever. Salty Scotch, thank you very much. I hope you didn't mean to put in a comment with that super chat. If you did, put it in there, and I'm just going to leave this up here for a second. I don't believe that politicians should not be allowed taking vacation. To put the inverse sentence in a positive manner, I believe that politicians should be allowed to take vacations. I think they should be allowed to take holidays. I think they should be allowed to play golf, and it's not in and of itself a political sin for Justin Trudeau, by the looks of it, to have gotten in some good spring skiing, because for any of you who might not be Canadian or skiers, you notice how the rest of his face seems very tan, except for where you would, otherwise see goggles.
Science based on shifting numbers.
It's not that I suspect he was spring skiing and having a good time. It's that he was doing it while simultaneously precluding Canadians as young as 12 and up from traveling on plane or train within their own country due to their vaccination status. So while I think, there's nothing wrong with politicians taking vacation, playing golf, when they're doing it to the dereliction of their duties or in a hypocritical manner to their duties or their own actions, duties, then I have a problem with it. Look at that face, by the way. Look at that face. I mean, when he finishes talking,
that's what matters.
Not yet.
Look at this face. So someone just says, so not yet. You're not considering it yet. Look at this face.
Not yet. You're not considering it yet.
My first part of the answer was, we're considering everything.
How dare you? How dare you question the sovereign? Okay, that's enough of that. Oh man, that clip. I mean, I tell you, I'm getting nauseated beginning with clips of Justin Trudeau relishing in the destruction of the fabric of Canadian society. I'm getting fed up with it. But it has to be observed. Rebel News posted that clip. The sheer insanity of that clip. This guy is saying everything's on the table. But we all have to get back to what we don't want to get into a 6th wave. At some point, we're going to have to acknowledge that you're not shutting down the world, isolating kids, and crippling the economy with you call it a wave now. I don't know at what point this becomes something that is going to be cyclical, but by no means as serious as the prior 5 waves, to the extent that, we believe what we are told to believe. Any news on Coach Red Pill? Okay, I'll address this. I don't have any specific firsthand news. There have been rumors. There's been a screen grab of Scott Ritter allegedly confirming certain things, but that statement itself is not confirmed. Black Pigeon Speaks, what's his name? Navi Hato on Twitter retweeted an account that bears Gonzalo Lira's name, but it's not his original Twitter account. So it's not clear that it's a real Twitter account. So rumorings and nothing confirmed one way or the other, and people theorizing and hypothesizing. So I don't get into the hypothesizing or theorizing or rumor spreading. No definitive confirmed news that I know of. If anybody else knows of it, don't post screen grabs with text on it. That doesn't prove much. You know, a Twitter feed, a Twitter handle purporting to be somebody when it's not the original account. Yep. So anyway, Salty Cracker is going to be here at 3 o'clock. In the meantime, we're going to talk about some stuff because there's too much not to talk about. Standard disclaimers: no medical advice, no legal advice, no election fortification advice. Super chats, YouTube takes 30%. If you don't like that, we should be simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Let me double check to make sure that we are on the Rumble. Clicking on the live stream. Click on that. And advice, no legal advice, no we're live. Fortification advice. Oh, we got 2 Rumble rants. So if you don't like that, son of a beast thing. Did my voice just crack? We got 2 Rumble rants, which I'll get to in a bit. Slow down and focus on the discussion at hand. Simultaneously streaming on Rumble. If Rumble takes 20%, so it's better for the creator, better to support a platform that supports free speech. You can also support and get the best bang for your buck. vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where we have more free discussion on the sensitive topics that the YouTubes doesn't allow you to talk about or remain monetized while you're talking about it. An incredibly obvious fact of life is this: nobody is perfect. Stop acting like they can be. Christians have said this for a long time. If we're talking about Johnny Depp, this is true. And we have to distinguish between the personal flaws of a man with his own weaknesses, his own addictions, and his own foibles, and what he was accused of having done by Amber Heard, and whether or not it was false or true or sufficiently true, or if false, did it cause damage? Nobody's perfect. Everybody struggles. Life is a struggle. Rich or poor. You know, they say rich or poor, it's good to be rich. Rich or poor, it's good to be healthy. And so if you have your health, to quote the Princess Bride, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. I forget what it was where he says, it was a very tongue-in-cheek thing. It was after they just put Wesley through the that device. What was it called? The device that took years off his life through torture. And, you know, the torturer humorously says to Prince Humperdinck, if you don't have your life, if you don't have your health, what do you have? Are Viva and Barnes JAG officers in the salty army? I don't know. Today's There's Crackers with our soup. It's gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be fantastic. I'm gonna get into the stories because there's too much. There was that Justin Trudeau clip. Nothing's off the table. Heart tackle. I went to the post office and I did not see the lures yet. So I will thank you when they come. And I was meaning to remind you. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, they were delayed. Okay, fine. I'll go back tomorrow. Thank you. I got letters. I got letters in the mail today and I read them. And thank you for sending them. Thank you for the encouragement. And you know, people share a lot of stuff via mail. I can't respond to all of it, but I get it all and I read it all. Thank you. Okay, so the first story was Justin Trudeau. The second story, let's see what we got here that I just have to talk about before we go live. Oh, and by the way, James Topp, the man who I interviewed a month ago now, walking from British Columbia to Ottawa in protest of the Justin Trudeau government, he's popping in after Salty Cracker exuns around 4:15 or 4:30. Because Salty we only have for an hour, 3 to 4:15, if we can squeeze an extra 15 minutes out. And then James Topp is in the back line. He's going to be in to give us an update. He's walked over, I think, 1,800 kilometers already. Crazy, wild stuff. We are two wild and crazy guys. Let me pull up. Guys. Hashtag confession through projection. Hashtag accuse your adversaries of doing what you are doing so as to create confusion. Check this out. This is Jen Psaki. I now have properly programmed the proper pronunciation of her name. Jen Psaki. Let me get the clip. Listen to this. setting aside, look, maybe I'm reading into it. I don't see actual emotions in her eyes, but it will be a stretch to impute sincerity or lack of sincerity in the emotive response here. I don't see it in the eyes. I might just be projecting my own bias on Jen Psaki, but listen to the accusation of your adversaries of doing what you're doing to create confusion or just outright confession through projection. Check this.
The political games and harsh and cruel attempts at laws that we're seeing in some states like Florida, that is not a reflection of the country moving to oppose LGBTQ plus communities. That is not what we see in data. That is not factual. And that is not where things stand. This is a political wedge issue.
Political wedge issue. She's making that accusation.
And an attempt to win a culture war.
In an attempt to win a culture war. This is Jen Psaki on Jessica Yellen's News Not Noise. It's a very subjective assessment there. Saying this is a political wedge tool being used to win a culture war. If you had to pick which side of the political ideological aisle arguably brings up these political wedge issues every election cycle, arguably openly engages in culture war with the stated purpose of winning the culture war, who might that be more true of between Jen Psaki and Ron DeSantis, who she's talking about? But let's just hear it one more time.
This is a political wedge issue and an attempt to win a culture war. And they're doing that in a way that is harsh and cruel to a community of kids, especially. I'm like going to get emotional about this issue because it's horrible. But it's like.
Can we pause right there? Let me just pause right there for 1 second. Can we appreciate that what she's getting emotional about and what she's saying is horrible is not teaching gender identity or sexual education to kindergartners to grade 3. That is what she's getting emotional about right now. You can't, under the law, the purported Don't Say Gay bill, which actually, as other people have rightly pointed out, doesn't say don't say gay. In fact, it doesn't say don't say heterosexual. So it must include heterosexuals. That was what someone thought was a dunk on the law. Yeah, that's the whole point. It doesn't target homosexual couples or homosexual sexual activity any more than heterosexual sexual activity. It just says you don't talk about any of it to kindergartners through grade 3. This is what Jen Psaki is getting very emotional about, but she's getting very emotional, and it's a question of whether or not anyone buys it. But watch this.
Kids who are bullied, and like all these leaders are taking steps to hurt them and hurt their lives.
All of these leaders are taking steps to hurt them and hurt their lives.
And hurt their families. And you look at some of these laws in these states, and it is going after parents who are in loving relationships, who have kids. It's completely outrageous. But it is a wedge issue. Sorry. This is an issue that makes me completely crazy.
Yeah, that I think most of us could agree on. It is clearly making her, by her own words, it's making her crazy. The idea for, does everyone remember there was that video of a lady who was talking about how she loves cats so much, and every time she thinks about cats, she's going to get emotional. And everyone thought it was an actual dating video, and it turned out it was a total parody, that it was so well done. Nobody identified it as being parody. Like, I just want to hug all the cats of the world, but the cat, that's great. And she's like, I'm getting the same vibe was I'm getting the same vibe from a parody video for what is clearly not supposed to be parody. This is Jen Psaki exploiting victims, exploiting the let's call them the victims of bullying, because there are people get bullied in school and it's a terrible thing. And the question is, how do you deal with that? But she is exploiting of the victimhood of victims of bullying to then conflated with this law, bullying kids and going after parents in loving relationships. And then there was another clip later on where she's saying, if a kid says, I don't feel, if a kindergartner through grade 3 says, I don't feel like whatever sex was assigned to me at birth, then the teachers are precluded under this law from discussing with them. Yeah, because if a kid says that, that's a discussion for the kid and their parents, not for the kid and their kindergarten teachers. But the feigning, to me, it's totally insincere emotion. Totally insincere. It is, won't someone think of the children while they are literally making this a wedge issue? If you support this bill, which has nothing to do with not saying gay, it has to do with not talking about sexual activity, sexual orientation, gender identity, with kindergartners through grade 3, making that into a wedge issue in an attempt to win a culture war. If anybody hasn't seen that video of the cat lady talking about how she loves cats and wants to hug them and she starts crying and it's so emotional, go watch it, because I mean, there's a mashup to be made in there, but I'm not the meme master, and I don't want anyone thinking that by mashing those memes together, I'm, making light of actual victims of actual bullying in school and victims of actual discrimination. But to just willy-nilly, won't someone think of the children as if this law is bullying children by just ensuring that there are certain subject matters that are off limits based on age and psychological maturity? Yeah. Anyway, so I thought it was interesting, because you have to listen to the words when they are literally accusing you of doing what they are doing, making it a wedge issue, making it a culture war that they're trying to win. And then won't you think of the children while they try to object to laws that they deliberately mischaracterize for the purposes of winning the culture war? And the reality is, they've got the media, they've got the celebrities, and they've got the politicians, and they're doing a good job at winning this culture war by fabricating a wedge issue, demonizing anybody who doesn't agree with this wholeheartedly fabricated wedge issue, and thus winning the culture war in the process. But people are discussing it. People are having open dialogue about it. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a very interesting culture war. And I think truth will prevail at the end of the day. And that will all just depend on what your perspective of the truth is. Jen Psaki, chapter closed. I saw some super chats. Let me see what we've got here. DeSantis stuffed. Okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. That would be one example where I brought up a chat before reading it. Oh, let me just take this down. Jen Psaki. Gosh, okay, hold on. I missed a $10 super chat. She isn't even a good actor. Hold on, I want to get this one. It's yellow, scrolling down. Then we're going to get into some of the other subjects. Jen, the mouth of Sauron, Psaki. I don't know what that means, but I do think it has to do with what she does with her tongue, which looks a lot like a lizard, protruding and jutting its tongue out as it like sniffs the air, because lizards and snakes smell with their tongue, in case you didn't know that. Holy crab apples, there's a lot of chat, and I put it on slow. Did I put it on slow mode? I don't think I put it on slow mode. People, I got to go put on slow mode. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Monetization, just refreshing. Let me see. Oh, we're still green. Good. Details, customization. Give me 30 seconds. No, I didn't put it on slow mode. That's why I cannot keep up with the chat. Putting it on slow mode. Stop typing, because you're going to lose your comment now. Okay. Now let me see if I can find. Okay. I don't think I'm going to get to. I'll bring it up here. I see a green one. Did Jen Psaki get Okay, I don't know what these comments mean. Let me bring this out here. I'm going to bring up the one with the, it's from True Jello. It says, she isn't even a good actor. She is laughing externally at the end of it while wiping the non-existent tears. I find it very bad acting. And, if you stare only at the eyes, there's an absolute disconnect from the emotion to the words being spoken. He's not dead. He's only mostly dead. One of the best movies of all time. One of the few movies that got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Pro tip: set your Nikon. Oh, it's not a Nikon. It's a Vitad plug-in thing. Okay. Well, oh, here we go. Here it is. She isn't even a good actor. Thank you. Brought it up now. The Hydro PX says, any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. Niccolo Machiavelli. Okay, I presume that's from The Prince. Any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. And I presume that means the exact opposite of what Nietzsche said. When battling monsters, sometimes you have to become the monster. I know from an art of war perspective, Machiavelli is probably right, but from a moral and ethical perspective, I believe Nietzsche is right. And then the question is, which do you put more emphasis on, victory or ethics, or in as much as possible to combine victory and ethics together? Okay, I don't even know what Mickey Mouse is. Stop doing that. Okay, so that's another subject which I just had to discuss before. Interesting thing, by the way. Mouth of Sauron was the herald of Sauron, aka the Dark Lord from the Lord of the Rings. She is the heralder of a sniffer. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, well, hold on a second. I'm actually going to bring her back, not to see her, just to give some props to the legal YouTube community, but specifically, where is it? Here we go. Legal Bites is in the news. This is in, I think it's Business Insider or just the Insider. Yes, it's an archive link that someone sent me, so I guess I couldn't access the original link. Insider. YouTube, see, this is the only thing that bothers me about do you see the ads? YouTube channel Legal Bites has surged by live streaming the Johnny Depp versus Heard trial and earned $5,000 in a week. It actually sounds like one of those infomercials. I made $5,000 last week. Alita Mazeka, I didn't know that was her name. A lawyer and commenter behind the YouTube channel Legal Bites is having a moment. About a month ago, Mazeka made a prescient call to live stream every day of the 6-week Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation trial, which is currently in its second week of testimony in Fairfax. And it goes into it. It's a very flattering piece. And it's... oh, you don't see that because... well, now I realize you probably did not see that because I did not have the right window open, but it's a flattering piece, people. Go to my Twitter feed and have a look at it. And good for Alita. I mean, it's what she's been doing. Rakate has been streaming it as well, but it's well deserved. People think, this is just a question of getting in front of a camera and talking. It's not everybody who can run a stream the entire day, make it entertaining, make it insightful, and it's stress and it is work, and you got to do your homework. You got to know what you're talking about. I love it when David gets totally flummoxed by cultural references. There's some things I know, and there are other things I do not know. Anyway, so good for, congratulations, Legal Bites. Well earned, well deserved, and keep bringing it on. People are watching this Johnny Depp trial. It's like watching a sordid, it's like reading a very sad diary. Anyone who gets that reference. It was like reading a very sad handwritten diary. What's the next topic before we run out of time, before Salty Cracker gets in the house? Let's play Jeopardy. Who is the most famous mouse would be the answer. Mickey Mouse. Yes. Let me share here because I'm going to walk through one article, and I'm going to avoid commentary. You're going to know exactly what I'm thinking because it's impossible not to have this thought. It's impossible not to have the reflex to analyze this article with what many people are going to think is motivated reasoning, justifications, arguing from conclusions for obvious reasons. But I've got to read the article, and it's like you have the thoughts while reading this article, and you get branded and labeled by people. Let me make sure I have. You're going to see my commentary in the tweet, but I'm just going to read the article because it's very interesting what they're warning people about right now. Share. Here we go. That's not what I'm looking for. Is it this one? No, it's this one here. This is an article talking about potential long-term effects of the Rona that can occur up to 12 months later. Wait until you appreciate what they're saying in this article. Well, I'll leave that so you can read it, and I'll read the article. It's anyone who had COVID within the last year could be at risk of a deadly side effect, a study. Included in the list was blood clots, which can quickly be life-threatening if not treated quickly. Any blood clot, yada, yada, yada. The research published in Nature Medicine warned long-term effects of COVID could be seen in the heart and vascular system. These include cardiac arrest, heart attack, heart failure, stroke, irregular heart rhythms, blood clots, blood vessel disease, and inflammation disorders, which we all presumably know, unless I'm mistaken, refers to myocarditis and pericarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart or an inflammation of the heart lining. this is the article, which you're not going to see because I'm going to make sure I don't make the same mistake again. This is the article in the Sun. Be aware. Be aware. And I'm channeling Kent Brockman right now. So would you say it's about time for all of us to panic? And yes, I would, Kent. Be aware. Warning to people who had COVID in the last year over deadly side effects. By the way, warning to people who've had, that's pretty much everyone on, I'll venture to say pretty much everyone, regardless of your medical status. My entire family had it over the holidays into January. Everyone I know has had it despite their medical statuses or notwithstanding or because of, depending on who you ask. So warn it, be aware. Everyone, be aware and be fearful. It might come at you in the next 12 months. It might come at you overnight, but be aware. Be aware of something that you, at this point in your life, cannot possibly control. Be aware and be scared. And by the way, just notice the overlapping. What they're now saying are potential side effects of the Rona itself. They sound like things that we saw on a document that was recently released by Pfizer. It sounds like what they're describing are exactly the same types of other potential side effects, which have been disclaimed by the company. It sounds like it. How is one to know for the 91% of Canada that has received a certain medical intervention? How does one know which? Good question. Nobody's asking it yet. At least nobody in this article. Anyone who had COVID within the last year could be at risk of a deadly side effect. A study. The virus, although it feels very familiar now, is still a mystery in many respects. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. While most people will bounce back from the illness, especially if vaccinated, scientists are still learning about any lingering effects. And as Omicron is a milder strain, it is not causing severe disease in the majority of people testing positive. Yeah, okay. But a recent study found people who caught COVID were at higher risk of a number of conditions for the next 12 months. Even those who didn't have an illness severe enough to be hospitalized could develop problems. How does one know? You're asking the question, but it doesn't matter. Just you know the question and then it goes into what you can happen. And we talked about it earlier. The study found that people who caught the virus faced a 72% higher risk of heart failure after 12 months. Experts looked at the data of over 11 million US veterans, including 154,000 who had COVID. Then they estimated the risks within a year for about 20 cardiovascular diseases. The researchers found that those who had COVID a year before were at a significantly higher risk to those who hadn't had the bug. I like it. It is worth noting, however, that the study period ended before vaccines were available. Really? It's worth noting, however, that the study period ended before vaccines were available. Interesting. I thought we were talking about the Omicron variant. That's interesting. I'm fairly certain that timeline doesn't make sense, but that would be a question I would have if I were interviewing the author. Experts looked at we talked about. So almost all of the veterans studied had not had a single jab when they caught COVID. Okay, had they had a jab since? Because that's an ambiguous statement right there. The risks still apply for those who have had COVID, but this research does not cover if vaccines lessen the potential of developing. Okay, it's interesting. Anyways, I'll click the link. You can go read this. But that timeline, aggregate knowledge of the interwebs, go figure that out, because that timeline doesn't make sense to me. That timeline doesn't make sense unless I'm misreading something, which I'm not sure that I am. The article is just mashup of information. Yeah. Let me see what the super chats were here. So that article actually, now that makes strictly no sense now. Vaccines were available as of 2021. Omicron was only around since 2021. Let me see here. I think you're missing the point. She wants little children. I'll leave that up so people can read it. What's in the avatar? What is in that avatar? It looks like a marble. It's my favorite Aggie. I've never played Marble, people. That's just a Simpsons reference. OG My Sharonosaurus Delta. Okay, no medical advice, people. I'm just going to leave this here because I don't want to be accused of. Oh, geez, I'm missing. Hold on 1 second, people. Viva, you're missing big super chats on Rumble. I don't care about the size. I just don't want to miss them. Let's go to Rumble. Take this opportunity. I know this interferes with the stream a touch, but there's a $50 Rumble rant from Salty Scotch on Rumble. And it says, Salt loves you, Viva. Thank you very much. And now I had a screenshotted a $10 super Rumble rant, which I missed, and now it's gone. Thank you regardless. And thank you for the heads up. Dissect that article, aggregate knowledge of the internet, because something doesn't make sense in it. But above and beyond that, just be afraid, be very afraid. And I'm reading some chats here, which are interesting. Okay, that was story number 1. Story number 2 on a related subject. Let me see here. Heard soils bed and Depp threatened. He did. Johnny Depp didn't threaten. He just made a joke about a president and an actor. And for those of you who don't know, John Wilkes Booth was an actor who, you know, was made famous, I guess, not through his acting career, but through his extracurricular activities involving Abraham Lincoln. Plump Lettuce says, this is how you lay the foundation to explain a huge increase in side effects. There's no question about that. And by the way, it's because the other day I mentioned how Quebec is now updating its medical procedure injury program, which it has, that it keeps track of. And I said, I put out a tweet and said, keep track of these numbers, look for the updates, because it's going to be an interesting few weeks just to follow the news. You can piece the dots together, but at least gather the information. Canada and Quebec have databases where they keep track of these things, and we're going to see what happens as they're updated. How do you internet? I internet like a champ. So the second story, related. 5,600 viewers. Booyah, Jack Jackerson. Thank you for. And how many do we have on Rumble? Actually, let me just. Oh, there's a $5 Rumble rant. Johnny Drive says Salty and Viva, Stiller Miera, Laura Hardy, Desi Lucy. I don't know what that means. Oh, there's a bunch of. Okay, we got the Salty. Then we got Xaravon says Salty has a glossary on his site. May help with super chats from Salty Legion. Thank you very much. Salt must flow. Nonal03 says you should turn off YouTube. It's asshole. Then you can be 100% free to be honest. I'm still free and honest on YouTube. The thing is, you don't cut off what is your biggest platform, your biggest reach. It's like, yes, you can do it out of principle, but you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. I'm getting everything that I would want to get out there. I wouldn't be saucier. I wouldn't be riskier. I wouldn't be edgier. I might feel, more at ease to have open discussions with actual doctors. But I do. That when I know it's going to impede the conversation, I go to Rumble exclusive. Okay, enough with the Johnny Depp stuff and the Heard trial. We're going to get to the second story. Give Peppermint Patty a break. She got saddled with a joke of an administration and needs an MSM job to retire. Her husband also looks like a caricature from the guy from Sublime song Date. Oh, I don't know. Okay, I know what that song is. Candace, thank you very much. I look, purple is my favorite color, and I notice heart emojis. Thank you. Okay, next story. Interrelated to the first story. Intertwined, correlated, intermingled, somewhat related. Let's just pull it up. Another one where random facts, better find another explanation for it. Share. Oh, this one is, it's enough to make you realize that when politics ruins everything, and it ruins science by infiltrating it with politics. I pinned it. Oh, by the way, do I do this? I think I just hit 200,000. I don't like the word followers, subscribers on the Twitterverse. I don't care. I just like nice round numbers. But thank you all for following me in my journey and my living diary on the Twitterverse. So this is the story, people. The story. Oh, I can't block the one side. Let me just go. The Guardian article. This is the Guardian article, which you're not going to see until I put it here. The Guardian article reports. Okay, whatever. The Guardian. Microplastics found deep in lungs of living people for the first time. Make sure we're seeing the same thing here. We are. Just a very interesting fact. On its face, you'd say, oh, okay, maybe we're inhaling particles that are being blown around in the sky. Which, if it were true, maybe this wouldn't be the first time that we would be finding plastics deep in lungs for the first time. But still, that headline doesn't really tell you much. Looks like you got sand and looks like you got little pieces of plastic and sand. So maybe people are going to the beach and sandstorms are blowing up, the pulverized plastic bits that we're inhaling into our lungs. Okay, maybe. Why we would be finding them for the first time now, 2022? The article is April 6, 2022. But that's not what's interesting. Particles discovered in tissue of 11 out of 13 patients undergoing surgery. Not a big sample field, but nonetheless a sample field. The particles discovered with polypropylene and PET most common. Okay, interesting thing to note here. It says polypropylene and PET the most common, but doesn't say which one is more common among polypropylene or PET. Okay, just let's what's the word? Let's bookmark that. Let's park that at the side for a second. Doesn't tell you between polypropylene and PET which one's most common. It just says that both of them together are most common. Might there be one that's much more common than the other within the equation of polypropylene and PET? Maybe, but we don't know. At least not, well, read the article. Polypropylene. Here's a good question. Where is polypropylene found? Interwebs, you know where this is going. You know where this is going. Because in an article from the CBC, which I must take here, bring back here, put into here, press enter so that you can see the article from the CBC. This is November 4th, 2020. So about a year and a half ago. November, December, January, February, March. November, December, January, February, March, April. About a year and a half ago. 2020. Polypropylene is now recommended in masks. Should I be concerned? Your mask questions answered. And by the way, just in case you are also asking this, can you kiss someone if you're both wearing masks? Okay. Well, if you ask Dr. Teresa Tam, you should be wearing a mask to kiss someone. You should be wearing a mask during sexual activity because that makes absolute total scientific sense. You could put the P to the V or the, whatever your bits are together. Exchange bodily fluids, every other part of your body, the sweat, the other stuff that goes into sexual activity. But don't you dare take off that mask because that's how the Rona is spread. So I have never asked this question. I have only asked how demented does someone have to be to ask if you can kiss someone if you're both wearing that? Even if I wanted to, would I need to ask anyone's permission or anyone's opinion on that? Polypropylene is now recommended in masks. This is a year and a half ago. We're answering your questions. Canada's chief public health officer recently released updated recommendations for non-medical masks while winter is approaching, yada, yada, yada. Now that a third filtering layer of non-woven polypropylene is recommended in masks, where do we get that material? How do you make a mask like that? Again, I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not making any affirmative statements. I'm just saying wearing a mask is the least you can do. It has no negative side effects, except people. I know those of you who've been watching the channel know this. I know that those of you watching this know about this already. They don't cause harm except when they potentially cause harm. Potentially toxic masks distributed in schools. Get out of here with these ads. Whatever, you see it. Potentially toxic masks distributed in schools and daycares in Quebec. Gray and blue SNN 20 whatever should no longer be used. Worn, Quebec, and Ottawa. One model of masks distributed to Quebec schools and daycares may be dangerous for the lungs as they could contain a potentially toxic material, according to a directive sent out by the provincial government on Friday. This is from March 2021. And I remember this because I remember someone who I know who's in the field of the institution sobbing on my shoulder because this person had been using a mask for months and noticed what they felt to be the sensation of cat hairs in the back of their throat. I remember this. So, but don't worry, they caught that problem and they recalled it. Back in December, the government revealed that masks it had been distributing. And by the way, it had not just been distributing them, it had been compelling the daycare teachers and the kids to wear them. They couldn't even bring their own from home. They were compelled to wear these. The Quebec government revealed that masks it had been distributing for months to more than 15,000 daycares across the province did not meet safety standards, and daycare staff were ordered to stop using them. They were ordered to stop using the potentially toxic masks after they were ordered to use the potentially toxic masks. Between May and November, the Ministry of Health, straight out of Orwell, distributed 31.1 million masks throughout the network to protect staff, but they were determined to be unfit for use. So it was the second time that it actually happened. Unfit for use. I don't know if that means potentially toxic. So masks, and I'm asking the question, how do I get this here? I'm asking the question, they're not harmful except when they're potentially harmful. And now we're finding, just coincidentally, a year and a half after polypropylene masks were recommended and being used en masse, now we're seeing for the first time ever polypropylene and PET being found in the deep lungs of humans for the first time. And now remember what I said about, let's shelve that idea about the polypropylene and PET. Because this is the one where PET, just throwing this out there, PET plastic. Where do you find PET plastic? Look, I'm going to have to spoil the surprise because I know where you find them. You find them in shields. Now, I don't think people are licking their shields or eating their shields or shredding them and inhaling the particles, but it's just to highlight what I was suggesting, that when it says, the article, that it's polypropylene and PET, I'd be curious to know the breakdown, because if I'm venturing a guess, I suspect we'd be seeing much more polypropylene than PET in that breakdown. But, once upon a time, if you, toxic, the masks are harmless. You should just shut up and wear them. It's the least you can do. And now we've been demonetized. Shut up and wear them because they can't do any harm unless they're potentially toxic masks that the government made you wear that have graphene particles in them. Then they can be potentially harmful. Other than that, shut your mouth and wear them. And look at this. A year and a half down the line, we're finding the very same plastics that are in these masks deep into the lungs of humans for the first time. Plastics in the environment have been around for a long time. The great plastic garbage patch off the Pacific coast, which many people think is like an accumulation of bags and like toilet bowls and whatever. What is it called? The Great Garbage Patch? I'll Google it in a second. It's actually totally emulsified. You wouldn't notice that you're going through the Great Garbage Patch, the Great Plastic Patch, if you didn't sample the water. It's particularized, pulverized plastics in the water. That's been around for a long time. So when I hear now that polypropylene, the very same material that we're finding in masks that were mandated in 2020, it's found for the first time, I'm putting my own dots together, but it's up for you what you decide to put together at the end of this. Let me see what the chat has to say. The aggregate knowledge of the internet is greater than any one individual. Several fertilizers and meat processing plants have been destroyed by arsonists here in the US over the last 18 months. Any in Canada? That's the first I've heard of this in the States. I have not heard of this in Canada. I've heard of churches being burnt and vandalized by arsonists, but not. But no, sorry, I just read a chat out loud. But no, I haven't heard about meat plants or anything. In a room full of lawyers, the guy with Viva's hair would be my choice. You know what? I would have, I like that, but I got to tell you, I don't know. I mean, I know some lawyers who have my type of hair. I know what I thought about them before, but I think my perspective of the world has changed sufficiently. So that's the other article, which I'm, just two random facts occurring in real time. But hold on, actually, we should bring up the article because I want to see what they were saying in the article. I believe they're blaming it on environmental factors. So let's just go Twitter, Viva Fry. I believe they're blaming it on environmental factors, but let's just read the article for full accuracy here. That's the, I know I always post the link to the article. Is this it? Okay, there we go. Microplastics have been discovered lodged deep in the lungs of living people for the first time. The particles were found in almost all the samples analyzed. The scientists said microplastic pollution was now ubiquitous across the planet, making human exposure unavoidable and meaning there is an increased concern regarding the hazards to health. So here, interesting, we have them recognizing, we have the doctors recognizing polypropylene. Yeah, we have the doctors confirming polypropylene particles in your lungs is a potential health hazard. Now they're saying it's plastics. So what did they say? Microplastic pollution was now ubiquitous. I guarantee you, people, if you look up microplastics pollution, you'll notice that it predates 2022 by a lot. It's now ubiquitous is true. It's like Mitch Hedberg said, I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to as well. They're now ubiquitous. This is true, but they were ubiquitous for years prior. So this is the mental gymnastics to try to find, try to attribute this new problem to a new problem where the new problem is actually not new at all. Therefore, if there's a new problem now that is new now, you might conclude that it has nothing to do with the problem that has existed for a fair bit of time. For us only now to be discovering plastics deep in the lungs of living humans. I love living people. I love it because you find plastics deep in the lungs of dead people sometimes, not living people. But it's a new problem for the first time. And now they're just purporting that, microplastics pollution is now ubiquitous. True, it's now ubiquitous, but I suspect it's been ubiquitous for a long time. Samples were taken from 13 patients, yada, yada. People were already known to breathe in tiny particles as well as consuming them via food and water. Okay, so here's a question that I would have for the expert. Even if I were to consume microplastics via food and water, why would they be ending up in my lungs then? If I consume them via food and water, I might expect an accumulation in my gut. I might expect blockages. I would expect it in my stomach, esophagus, trachea, whatever. If I'm consuming the microplastics via food and water, I would ask the expert, but I would suspect I would not find them deep in my lungs. I suspect. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you're drinking water and you inhale the vapors of the water, you're inhaling the microplastics. Maybe. But that would be my question for the expert. Hypothetically expert, because experts are always there to give their opinions and only their opinions. Hypothetically expert. If all I consumed by way of microplastics pollution, if the only way I consumed it were in food and water, would you expect to find any of it deep in my lungs? That would be my hypothetical question of the expert's opinion as an expert. And I would like to know what that answer would be. Microplastics were detected in human blood for the first time in March. For the first time. After this, remind me, I'm going to go and see how long, when we could find the first scholarly article on microplastics pollution. Found in the human blood for the first time in March, showing the particles can travel around the body and may lodge in organs. Okay, so here's what the answer might be. If you consume the microplastics through food, it gets into the blood, it ends up in your lungs because that's where your blood goes to take away the oxygen. Okay, maybe that would be the explanation. But researchers are concerned as microplastics can cause damage to human cells in the laboratory, and air pollution particles are already known to enter the body and cause millions of early deaths a year. I'm noticing a trend in these two articles. Let me just see something here. Does it even talk about masks in this article? It does not even mention the word mask once in this article. Let me see where the... here we go. A U.S. study of lung cancer patients in 1998 found plastic and plant fibers, such as cotton, in more than 100 samples. In cancer tissues, 97%. Okay. Huge amounts of plastics are dumped in the environment, and microplastics contaminate the entire planet, from the summit of Mount Everest to the deepest oceans. All right, people, I'm going to put this link in the article, and you can go entertain yourselves and see if you, let me remove this, put this here, put this down. Yeah, it's just, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Oh no, that's what I wanted to do. Let's for the sake of it, go here. I'm going to go to Google microplastic pollution. Come on, just so you see what I'm doing. Bring it up. Are we in the microplastics? No, I'm in the wrong. Cripe. Okay, there we go. Let's do this. Microplastic pollution. And let's just see what the results are. Scholarly articles. Britannica, April 5th. What are microplastics? We got an article in February 26, 2021. Let's just say we got one in 2020. Microplastics pollution in deep sea sediments from the Great Australian Bight. This is, where did I see the article? October 2020. So this is March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 6 months into the pandemic. Let's see if we've got anything pre-pandemic. I'm sure we do. I just don't know how to look it up. Microplastics pollution in a rapidly changing world. And this is date 2020. I don't know what the date is. October. So right here. Bottom line, people. I mean, I could go back and find scholarly articles. You know, let's just do 2019. There you go. Microplastics pollutions is raining down on city dwellers. Ugh, I'm not happy with cookies, but I'll do it anyhow. This is from a 2019 article, people. Microplastics pollution is raining down on city dwellers. And yet, despite this, 2022 is the first time, according to this article, that they're discovering polypropylene, whatever the plastic was, deep in human lung tissues. The plastic particles were being discussed well before the World Wide Web. Anyways, yeah. It's chat is nuts. I'm not following the chat, but let's just go see what is going on the Rumble France. Okay, Scott, we got that. We got Johnny Quest, or JNY Quest. Hey, Viva, your hair looks like Alex Karp. Salty Army reporting in, firing up the meme cannons. And I don't know what the wood chip is, but I feel scared to say the word because I don't know if it has an improper connotation or context. Those are the two stories. Interwebs, aggregate knowledge. Let's try to make sense of them. I have my questions. I'm in my own mind. I am asking questions. I'm noticing the absence of certain questions being asked. To me, it seems inconceivable. Inconceivable. I met him in real life, by the way, at an airport. I said, "Are you the inconceivable guy?" And he goes, "Yes, I am." And then we talked for a bit, and it was an interesting discussion. He talked about this was a long time ago, but he talked about how hard it is to try to find work because when you get typecast or whichever it is, typecast, they want you to be a specific fatherly figure all the time, and it's tough to get out of that, and it's tough to find work. And it was an interesting discussion. It seemed he was a very nice guy. I was going to say something. Oh yes, the absence of even asking the question or mentioning in this article about polypropylene deep in lungs without even asking the question, might there be a correlation to masks? Which we know now, you put the two and two together, it's all out there. To not ask the question is journalistic dishonesty. And speaking of journalistic honesty, Ivory Hecker had her on yesterday. Amazing interview. I'm not a journalist. I am merely an analyst. Ivory is a true journalist. There might be, a discussion to be had there with someone who knows more than the lawyer and the journalist. Okay. Well, first of all, know the vlog. And I think, let me see here. Oh, yeah, crack in the back. Oh, that's it. Oh, sorry. Get this pillow. I'm sitting on a pillow, people, because the chair that I'm on, without this ridiculous pillow, I'd be too short. Okay. I believe Salty should be coming soon, come on, man. Come on. This strategy has worked perfectly. If we go live right away, it takes too long for people to trickle in, and I'm going to do this every time. Viva Gear. Yeah. Hold on. Where was it? Is Salty a late type as well? Salty will be late. We'll see. I am very sensitive to punctuality. What? Viva Gear. Yeah, it's a polka dot. Get it on the side. Polka dot pillow. True story. I remember. Am I going to get in trouble for saying this? When my wife gave birth, Someone gave her one of those donut pillows for the 10,000 plus watching now. Amazing. And it's not even the Johnny Depp trial. It's some wild Canuck in his basement talking about the things that actually matter. Although I think Johnny Depp does matter. I think it's an interesting legal training for anybody who wants to be a lawyer. 10,000. Wait, hold on. How many do we have? We have 3,500 on the Rumbles. Let's see. 4,400 on Rumble. 6,000. We're at 11,000 people. Booyah. Okay, I'm gonna pull up a couple more Twitter thingy things. Salty is hyperventilating right now. We love you, bro. Fro and mullet re. Yeah, I could. You know what would be really funny if I cut the hair and just leave the mullet. I've always wanted a mullet. Let's just go back to Twitter for a few minutes and just get some things off my chest. Of the Justin Trudeau legal bites in the news, microplastics. Okay, so we got all of these. We covered all of the stories, which is great. And James Top, people remember he's going to be in here 4:15, 4:30ish. Let's just go back to Twitter. Let's just go back to the Twitterverse. Click on the avatar. No, that's not what I want to do. Whatsoever. I want to click on my timeline and just make sure that we're seeing the same thing, which we are, and then cover one or two more tweets. There was some interesting things in the last little while. It's just typos. Oh, CNN streaming. This is, people, I do not pick on typos, period. Anybody who resorts to picking on typos to think that they show that they're smarter than their interlocutor, that is cheap garbage argument. I'm not picking on the typo because I think it wins the argument, and I am the last person on earth to pick on someone's typo or to make fun of someone's typos. But this is funny. So I read it. I'm so oblivious, impervious to typos. I didn't even see it. But I Googled this. This is the big news of the day. CNN Plus. I couldn't see it on Brian Stelter's Twitter feed because he blocked me. So when Rosemary Barton from the CBC retweeted Brian Stelter, I couldn't see it because Stelter blocked me. So I had to go see what it was. And lo and behold, CNN Plus, the streaming service that was hyped as one of the most significant developments in the history of CNN, will shut down on April 30, just 1 month after it launched. Did anyone spot it? I didn't spot it. All that I said is, I read this like, who on earth in their right mind was hyping this as the most significant development in the history of CNN? Who? Was it CNN that was hyping it? So I just cut and pasted and I went to Google and then it says, did you mean significant? Signifiant. In French, it's a word. So maybe they had their French spell check on. Signifiant. The streaming service that was hyped as one of the most signifiant developments in the history. It's just funny because you have a failed news network talking about if it was the biggest development in the history of CNN, it's the biggest failure in the history of CNN. And there's a typo in the tweet, which is just very ironic and very fitting. But that just brought me back to the original tweet, which was, who on earth hyped CNN Plus as one of the most significant developments in the history of CNN, other than fake news CNN itself? So big news. I don't even know what it was. I mean, it was supposed to be like unique, exclusive broadcasting or specific broadcasting. CNN is garbage. The only reason people watch CNN is because you're stuck in an airport. And for whatever the reason, they seem to have the contracts at the airport. Nobody watches CNN willingly. And I should say, even the people who watch it willingly, I think they're being duped into watching it. I think it's a form of trickery. Oh, and I see Salty Cracker in the background, people. He's early. I would not make Salty Cracker wait. I'm going to bring in Salty Cracker. I think Barnes might be a little jealous because he's not here yet. But no, we've only got him for a limited time. He's coming in. Salty, I can see what you're doing. But get dressed. I'm joking. Okay, I'm joking. 3, 2, and 1. Salty, sir, how goes the battle?
Good morning. I'm hoping that everything's working smooth like butter, considering this is the second time in 5 years that I've used StreamYards.
I have not had a bad experience with StreamYards yet. Let me just see if chat, let me know if the audio is balanced between the two of us. Holy crab apples, Salty. You have an active and dedicated fan base. The shaker is coming.
The ravenous sons of bees. Watch this. This is going to be the first broadcast done by a mullet madman that's PG rated. gonna give it a shot.
So-
We're gonna give it a
Salty,
shot.
I'm in slow mode and it's 15 seconds slow mode. I can't keep up with the chat. It's done. I'm not
Oh,
even,
tell
I'm
me
not even
about
going to try anymore. Salty. Okay, man. So look, I don't want to ask personal questions that you don't disclose. This is our first time actually speaking. I've seen a ton of your stuff. My neighbor down the street said back when I was, a newbie to the interwebs, have you heard of Salty Cracker? You'd love him. And then I started watching and I do love, but where are you from? For the elevator pitch for my audience who might not know who you are, elevator pitch. Who are you?
Elevator pitch. I'm a much uglier Brian Stelter, everybody. I mean, look at that Quato on my forehead over there. Boom! That's right. We will do self-deprecating humor on other people's channel as well as our own, Mad Lads. But this is what you're watching is a person who was really naive just like 10 years ago. I voted for Obama. I'm sorry. Voted for Obama. Drank all the Kool-Aid, watched CNN, and then I was like, oh, they're lying to me. Call out the line, then you get called a Nazi. I'm like, oh, we're gonna play this game? Okay. I was raised by sailors. Let's go at it. Let's do this.
Well, so here's a real question. Were you in fact raised by sailors?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, every man in my family has been in the military, except for me. I'm the only I enlisted in the digital armed services, I'm guessing. But every single man in my family, except for me, has went out and put their life on the line for this country.
where are you from?
California.
So you're born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
How many siblings? Just to get the obvious one out of the question. Are you an only child or are you the youngest of 7?
No. Youngest. I got an older brother and a younger sister.
Okay, I mean, born and raised in California, you've grown up in the blue of blue. I mean, let me ask you the obvious question. May I ask how old you are?
Yeah, 42.
Hey, we're the same age, man. When's your birthday?
November.
Okay, so I'm older than you I've got 6 months of suckling at the teats experience on you. 42, you've lived in California your whole life. Have you noticed a change in the state since when you were young to now? A real change or a perceived change in your experience?
Oh no, it's a real change. It's a real change. California is suffering from massive woke stockholder syndrome, and in the last, I was clearly the last 8 years, it's gone insane. When I was a kid, we would take our bikes into San Francisco to ride those glorious hills, and nobody ever like you might come across a condom every now and then, and there was homeless people, but when you see these stories, and we joke about this all the time on this channel about the streets being full of fecal matter. That's not a joke. If you take the BART system into San Francisco, you can smell fecal matter, you can smell urine, you can smell methamphetamine. You could it's a woke milieu of absolute offenses to your senses.
I like that. It rhymes. This would make for good lyrics for Tom McDonald. Offenses to your senses. I mean, do you talk to people? What's the sentiment of people who are living through this? Do they hate it? Are those who are well off indifferent to it because they're sort of unaffected by it, or does everyone say this is crap, but we don't know who to blame?
No, at this point now, I grew up, I would say, entry level, middle class. I mean, my family didn't have they weren't poor, but we were entry level middle class. So I don't know what the rich people are doing, but I do know the rich people, they flee in this place. They flee in this place. Business owners are fleeing this place. People who are just trying to make a living are fleeing this place. And the way that my wife and I operate is that we hit them with a snook of a question. We try to drop it under them and go, oh man, our fence got tagged this week. And then just kind of see how, because you got these numbnuts out there that'll be like, oh, well, that's great. That's super duper great. Well, that's just like urban culture that's being gifted to you. I'm like, no, prick. I got to paint this off my fence. And this, it's a destruction to your neighborhood. And some people, and it's mostly women. I hate to say it like this because it plays right into this left-wing narrative that I'm a misogynist. But this is we're just different people, humans, species, and so the women are being impacted by this, and they just buying into us. They're afraid to say, "No, this is crap," and I don't want needles and drugs all over the place. and they'll virtue signal on all these platforms how great they are, that they love it, but ain't nobody sending their kids to the park. I haven't seen a kid play at the park across the street from my house in 30 years.
I'm going to ask the politically.
What's going on, Barnes?
Robert, how you doing? I know Barnes is going to have questions on this subject. It's going to be the politically sensitive question. Is the tendency for people to avoid complaining about the phenomenon because they don't want to be accused of, it presupposes a certain demographic of sorts, I guess, but is the reluctance to critique this because nobody wants to be accused of, discrimination or some form of, wealth shaming? Like if you complain about it, you're not being tolerant to the poor, to the downtrodden. Is there that social pressure, or are people just living a willing lie?
Yeah. So the society in California has been completely restructured, and it's now a currency based on wokism. And so these people who've never done anything in their life, who've absolutely built nothing, they've never done anything, they now have this sense of entitled power by how woke they are, how much Kool-Aid is in their hair. And they run around. This is the Stanford prison experiment writ large. And what they're doing is these people now go around and they henpeck everybody who doesn't put a rainbow flag in their doorway. They go through and they monitor you, and they go, well, I noticed that you didn't have a Black Lives Matter shirt on last Sunday during the Church of Wokeism that we did out here. I'm going to be calling your supervisor and stuff like this. And so you've got maybe 3 to 10% of the population over here that has this newfound cudgel that they can use to bludgeon everybody against. And they're just getting high off these fumes of power that they think that they have. And so people are just, your average normie in California is just trying to not get bludgeoned by these idiots.
When I talk to people like candidates and others about staying attuned to the sort of populist base, the two people I reference one is Alex Jones, which always surprises them a bit, but it always surprises me that they don't understand this. There's a guy who's got a very favorable rating of over 30 million Americans, according to YouGov, according to the media's own polls. This guy has more people who have a very favorable rating of him than voted in the entire Democratic presidential primary process. It's that kind of intensity. But the second one, which always throws them off because of the name, is they say you guys should be following Salty Cracker. So if you're running for the House, you're running for the Senate, you're running for state legislature, you have been as attuned to a big key part of the activist populist base as anybody out there. How did that come about? And how did you get? Well, one, how did you decide to get interested enough to go public and be involved in this space? But secondly, how did you get to the point where you're attuned to a key part of the base that that you're not going to get from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and Newsweek and the little Mandarin parties in Manhattan and the Hamptons and DC and whatnot?
To be honest, it got started out of a sense of being just pissed off, noticing that I was completely and utterly lied to. One of the first instances of this is I was, watching MSNBC. I'm watching all of these people with their suits and their ties and their camera lighting, and they're laughing at Peter Schiff, telling them that a market crash is imminent. And I remember the roundtable. I remember them laughing at him, and then he was 100% right. And I was like, this is weird. And I'm looking around me. I was a teacher at that point, and everything that we were doing was completely opposite to what we were telling the parents. And I was sitting there going, everything I've been told is a lie, and everything that is going on is a lie. And so I'm saying this at the dinner table. And when you get that first red pill, you go through that 7 stages. And the first one is, I want to strangle somebody. And so I'm at the dinner table, and my wife is like, you got to shut up, bro. Like, this is okay. I hear you. This is just too much. You got to calm down. You got to, I was like, well, I need an outlet. But then I was also keyed into the fact that you would see how these people would be attacked. The Alex Joneses of the world, the Peter Schiffs, all these people, the Gerald Celente, all of these people being attacked. And I was like, I need to make sure that if I'm going to start yelling about this, that this is the emergence of cancel culture. I don't want to get fired from my job. You can't say any of this stuff as a teacher. You can't even think this stuff as a teacher. These people got precogs in the basement of the schools, and they're sitting there going, that dude's not woke, and so they'll come get you. And so that's why I set up an auxiliary parallel tutoring system so I could be my own boss. Got that up and running, and then in between clients, I was just yelling about stupid stuff. There's a lot of like what Alex Jones does and what some of these other guys are doing. What they're doing is that they're talking about a lot of really specific stuff about the war that we're in, and it's incredibly important. But it also requires a ton of preloading and reading. And the vast and what you watch the left-hand side do is they're upending our civilization, our society based off of emotion and irrational reaction to emotion. And so they don't need to, they understand that the average person out there isn't going to read 8 volumes to understand the war that we're in. And so when I started this off, I was hitting the culture war stuff because it's easy to see how stupid this is when these people aren't interested in making movies with Marvel movies, when they're more interested in virtue signaling with Star Wars and detonating a $4+ billion franchise in order to push a narrative. You can explain that to people in 4 minutes. And when you just start off creating as a content creator, you should keep yourself around 4 minutes, because if you're not reaching that many people, you need a lot of content. You got to hit 4 minutes. So that's kind of how this all started. And then I just did the opposite of what all of these people do. I listen to my audience. I don't attack my audience. I take the criticism. I take the feedback. I read the comments. I don't post a lot in the comment section, but I read what they're doing. I look at what they're saying and I listen to them, and I understand that those people are in charge, and they help. This entire thing on this channel is just one gigantic group of pissed off and crazy people moving in one direction.
So I'll ask you one question. I'm gonna have to run and open a door for my wife, but this is where I always have the fears and the concerns. You see, pissed off, and I know when you say it, pissed off, crazy people. It's humorous, it's tongue in cheek, it's people who are frustrated with society. But do you not have a concern that people might take it to a step that, you know, they might get encouraged or enraged to take it to the next level, which is above and beyond witty, sarcastic, salty internet humor?
Oh yeah, no, I don't worry about any of that. I understand the name of the game right now is if you continue to get big, you're going to be attacked no matter what. So whether it's correct or whether it's wrong, whether it's implied, none of that matters at this point. These people will make up and concoct their own ideas of what are going. You just saw this with Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok will get everybody killed. Libs of TikTok is just showing everybody your dumb videos, you idiots. And so I'm coming at it from the premise that they've already called us white supremacists, Nazis, and terrorists. What else are they going to do with this? I mean, okay, so he sells shirts that says pissed off and crazy. And that person who did this over there, I'm not responsible for anybody's actions out there.
Now, in terms of violent conflicts and what have you, it always surprises me when I was on a show called The Duran, and they have a international audience, and part of their audience comes from the anti-war left, but the anti-war left is still rooted in just like left populist and Bernie Sanders style are still rooted in statist solutions. And the anti-war left is still rooted in anti-American, the evil American empire kind of logic, etc. So when I tell them the ordinary American doesn't want to get involved in some dumb foreign war, least of all for a coked up, corrupt guy with accounts in the Panama Papers in Ukraine, they honestly don't believe me. They think, no, America is this deeply militaristic country that Americans just can't wait to be Vikings and Mongols and just invade whatever land they can for some grandiose globalist purpose. You've been one of the, when I was talking to House and Senate candidates saying, watch these communities and constituencies about this war, and you're going to see the populist base doesn't have an interest in going to fight in some place that's literally known as the borderlands in their own language, between a bunch of folks that we have nothing to do with, no business in, no interest in, least of all for some corrupt rogue like Zelensky, who's just dancing to the Colombian marching band every night.
In high heels.
Yeah, exactly. In high heels. Exactly. Yeah, you have to add the visual. I mean, it's a literal wag the dog. I mean, we're watching a literal. It's like a parody of it. It's like what happens with Hollywood when they go woke. They write bad movies. It's like I don't even mind going woke so much. At least write a good movie. Just don't make it a crap movie. But I mean, the deep state doesn't make false flags like they used to. That's for sure. But can you explain the? I mean, nobody's going to confuse this with the Reichstag fire. But the in terms of your take on the desire of the Biden administration and so many of the Republican establishment to drag us into another foreign war.
Biden himself seems like he's the only one who's concerned about this. And I don't know if it's because clearly his kid is, you don't end up on the largest natural gas board of, I think, a nationalized company on accident in Ukraine. And now we're out there. I think I just saw we're sending another 500 every hour. We're sending another couple $100 million in the direction of this place. So in the end of the day, it's money laundering. There's so many characters, the right side, the left side, they're all making a ton of money off of this. I think Biden and his cronies, aside from making money, need to protect the fact that they're all of their kids. You got John Kerry's kid in there, Nancy Pelosi's kids are in there. Of course, Hunter Biden's in there, and you'll find there's Republican kids in there too. They're all playing this game, and they're all making a lot of money. And the people who are suffering the most are these poor Ukrainian civilians who are caught in this meat grinder of criminal oligarchs laundering money through their place. And then I was reading a thing yesterday where I'm like, look at all of we're now telling other countries in NATO, send in all of your equipment, send in all your equipment, and then we'll replenish it. Well, that's more billions is probably the low end of it. We're going to replenish all of your missiles in Slovakia. Again, when you clean the poop up in San Francisco, then maybe we could start worrying about Ukraine. But the desire and the need and the amount of money and the effort that we're spending on this place over there doesn't all match up into the security needs of this country. Not nearly comparable to what Russia's facing. And so I'm just sitting there going, I'm just trying to figure out if Putin's on the side. I'm trying to figure out if Putin doesn't seem to be losing a whole bunch of, I don't know, political currency in his own place. They seem hopped up over there, and his economy seems to be bouncing back. I'm sitting there going, am I being played by the criminals in my state, my country, or am I being played by world criminals? That's the only part I'm trying to figure out right now.
Oh, sorry, I left this chat up here. Salty, in Canada, I mean, I presume you're familiar with what's going on in Canada, but Trudeau has been donating, shipping military weapons and whatever support to Ukraine to such a point where there's concerns now that our military could be depleted, that we don't have enough resources in our own military. We're not exactly entering any imminent conflict, but it's a bizarre thing that it's become an international movement for this particular conflict, for this particular area, compared to every other conflict, which has not mobilized the entire world, even though there might have been even clearer lines of good versus bad and innocent victims caught in the crossfire. In terms of your observation of people's reactions to this, when they come over and they see this, are you noticing a lot of people who might have been oblivious to this are waking up and listening to what you're saying?
I honestly thought when I started making videos about this Ukraine situation, they hit this. So this is again another part of this mass psychological operation that's going on, and even to a certain extent, I was they hit us so quickly, so immediately, with everybody on the same page of this Ukraine situation, with the flags and everything. I was sitting there going, are people going to be pissed off? Are people in my community going to be pissed off that I'm talking about Ukraine in this fashion? And there's again, I just was talking about how you got to respect the audience, but you also can't lie to them. They don't want to be lied to. And so I was like, the biolabs and the money laundering, all this, I got to talk about it. And those are some of the biggest videos that ended up being on BitChute. And so I don't think anybody's buying this. I think this is just a continuation of what they've done with Black Lives Matter, with the LGBTQ movement. I think this is nothing new. I think they did this in the Iraq situation where you get a few people going out there, you utilize your propaganda arm of Hollywood and the television networks, and you just blast people ad nauseum and try to force manufacture an outcome. And again, it's nothing new. You can, I can't remember if it was the first Iraq war or the second Iraq war, but I think that's where you get one of the world's largest protests against. And I didn't know about that until 20 years after the thing happened. And so nobody wants to be in Ukraine. These idiots on Twitter, there's probably about 2 of them. And then it's just bots the rest of the way down. Bots and turtles all the way down.
I've noticed it on Twitter.
I mean, now what's where do you get your material? Well, what is your source material? And how? I mean, where do you go to to stay attuned with everything? To like, or what's a typical day like for Salty Cracker?
Typical day. What I do is I'll get up and I'll go through the Twitter feed and patriots.win, and I'll try to go through that and line those up and see kind of what everyone's talking about. And then from there, I'll go out and I'll find out what is the left-hand side talking about those topics. So then I'll go to the Daily Beast and CNN and all these other garbage rags, see what they're talking about. And I used to go to their comment section to see what the idiots were talking about, but all of them got rid of the comment section. So now you got to go take those, cross-reference them with left-wing Twitter, find out what they're saying these idiots are saying on Twitter, and then go to the other outlets like Breitbart or InfoWars or the right-leaning kind of stuff. Check what they're saying, check those comment sections, sit back, and then look at how people are, how the world's actually reacting in real-world terms to what's being said, and then formulate a situational hypothesis from that.
Let me ask you this: what do you recall any big mistake that you've ever made as a matter of fact on a story that your crowd called you out on that you had to correct?
You know, I was adamant that Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee. I was nobody could convince me otherwise. I was sitting there going, no. I was like, come on, this dude's a tapioca brain. Look out! Even in the primaries, I was sitting there going, Joe Biden don't know what planet he's on. And I was absolutely convinced that they were going to slide Hillary Clinton in at the last moment, so she didn't have to do any debate, she didn't have to do anything. And then they just outright. How do I do this? Because we're on YouTube. I don't want to get you guys in trouble. They fortify. I've never seen such fortification since Wheaties, boys. They went out there and they fortified this election so hard. I was sitting there going, oh, that's why they didn't bring her in, because they did this out in the open. This is a dangerous move that they just did. This is a pure gamble, and no sane person is going to sign up for this job.
You know, they detailed it in the Time magazine. I mean, it's what they did. They've got big tech, politicians, media, all controlling what people thought. They had the litigation machine on full throttle 6 to 8 months before, all in plain sight. But no, I do remember that. That was the running theory, is they were going to substitute Hillary for Biden at the last minute, and people were going to be outraged, but like they did, hold their nose and vote for her.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
There's still people that still think that. I mean, if suddenly they remove Uncle Joe and put Kamala in, and then Hillary is the substitute vice president, then I would give Kamala 6 months. Before she's on a special, she'll be on a Ron Brown special. We need you to take a trip to a war zone, see how that works out for you.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming, but something has to be coming. I don't know if they're going to bring in Michelle Obama. I don't know if they're bringing in Hillary Clinton. I'm just sitting there going, what is the game plan? Because the midterms look like a political bloodbath.
So
absolutely.
You're still living in California, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Have you lost friends and family from what you've been doing since you become vocal? Have you made more friends than you've lost, or just a net loss of intolerant? I say people who cannot tolerate what you're professing. I
got a little, I got this, I'm a weird person, so I don't really hang out with other humans outside of the house anyway, but every single job acquaintance that I had, I don't talk to anybody anymore. And it's not, they don't know they don't know that I do this. Nobody's ever said. Only one person, two people in my family have found the channel kind of on accident back when it was recommended if you watched like Crowder or something. And one of them yelled at me, and one of them loved it. Just dude's one of the biggest fans.
Who's got
I can imagine. Now what is, do you plan on staying in California, or have you thought about making an escape the way others have?
Florida looking real good right now. If Florida does constitutional carry and I could walk around with a 45 on my hip, that would be awesome. My only concern, here's my big concern, because Florida looks great, Texas looks great. I don't want to go into the middle of nowhere in Montana. Sorry, Montana peds. I don't want to upset you, but I mean, Montana looks like an absolute nightmare. The problem is everybody who's fleeing California is going to those places. Like, they're going to Texas, they're going to Florida, and I don't want to make a move only to have to move again in like 5 years. I need you guys over there to start putting meth gators at the border to stop these people from traveling into your beautiful red states.
That's the funny thing is I was just down in Florida for a few days and talking to people who moved from New York to Florida, complaining about Trump. And like, it's the amazing thing. They've moved from what they've seen, political devastation of blue states, blue cities. They go to a red state, arguably maybe not so much red cities, but they go there, complain, and then complain about the administration, presumably, or the politics that they just, that they fled to from what has been destroyed by the party that, they were complaining about. The concern is always, the Californians go to Texas and they're going to turn Texas red. Is it red or blue? Which I get. No, they're going to turn it blue within a matter of years, and basically go from one place, colonize, destroy, and go to another, colonize, and politically destroy. Robert, do you see that happening to Florida anytime soon?
No. Florida has moved radically toward the right. And two things. One, it's the Venezuelan and Cuban vote moving back in that direction. For a while, the Cuban younger vote was trending a little bit Democratic. That pulled back massively between 2016 and 20. When you have guys like Pitbull saying this COVID stuff is crazy, loco, we recognize what this looks like. It's the Cuban government's still taking credit for like China. It's why they're shutting down Shanghai. They're still taking their zero COVID policy magically worked. They're still trying to convince people of this insanity. That's why people are up on their high towers screaming bloody murder every night in Shanghai. That's what a good time is. Go out on your balcony and scream. And it's a mindset. It's a mentality, but the Cubans were one of the first groups to spot it right away. Outside of your frontline populist constituencies, people like Alex, people like Salty, the others were groups like Cubans and Venezuelans. They understood, okay, this is just a pretext for a power grab, and this doesn't end well. I remember what happened to Grandpa. So the show trial and everything. So that I think because of that shift, as much as anything, Miami was only in the single digits for Biden. That's with all the fortified votes they had coming in down there. So that was probably a 3-4 point win by more naturally, shall we say. And so I think, and you see with DeSantis has cojones. He's the only Republican governor with cojones, sadly. But going up against Disney has been living off of what people don't understand about what Disney did. Disney had it got to regulate its own community. And it went beyond just like tax benefits and special privileges. They got to police their own community. And why does that matter? You can go back and find Peter Schweitzer talking on C-SPAN in the late 1990s about Disney's pedo problem. Disney's had this problem for a while, but their special community where they got to police themselves magically kind of look like the FBI with the Democratic Party. They can't find a crime even when it's staring them in the face. And so when DeSantis takes away that special privilege protection for Disney, he's doing a lot more than just taking away some tax benefits. He's doing a lot more than taking away some zoning benefits. He's exposing everybody at Disney to all of their ability to suppress the criminality in their organization, particularly related towards children, is now gone. And that's thanks to DeSantis. DeSantis is the only one that understands you have to fight back in this arena. You cannot continue to just cede ground politically or tactically. That's what Trump recognized. That was one of the fascinating things. So, when I started getting into this bet on the election, I didn't know about the whole what's now Patriots.win, which was the Donald, which before that was the Donald Reddit and the rest. I started discovering all these kids, and I was like, well, where did this whole place? Where do they come from? And then I got into Gamergate and all this other stuff, and I was like, for the woke crowd to try to go after gamers was probably one of the dumbest decisions in the history of the cultural left. Right up there with trying to, deconstruct Star Wars and Star Trek and Marvel and all the rest, which is enraged and antagonized people who before were apolitical. But can you describe for people like that these communities are communities where you really get to hear a big part of the populist base? And it's your Kevin McCarthy's of the world don't know they exist. Your Ted Cruz's that didn't know it existed in 2016. Your Mitt Romneys still don't know it exists. They are so out of touch with the base that is reflected in the collective opinion of many of these communities. That's where you see it. And how did you sort of discover and uncover that community?
Well, because I'm a part of that community. I was yelling about Gamergate. I was yelling about these attacks on culture that at a face value and at an economic value don't make any sense. These are clearly derived for political purposes, and they're trying to. You don't have these issues that the left are banging on about. You don't have a quantifiable amount of racism and sexism and misogyny. You don't have homophobia, that type of stuff that they can actually show you. So they go out there and they purposely switch the Little Mermaid to black, or they purposely switch beloved characters. They race swap them, and then they agitate a group of people. And then they take it's sometimes it's not even agitation. It's just going, we see what you idiots are doing. And they go, well, see, here's the racist that we're pointing out. Here's the racist. And I'm sitting there going, well, you're calling me a racist. I'm not married to a Mexican chick. I'm the world's worst racist if I'm a racist. And these aspects that they were hitting, I'm a part of those communities. Back when, you had these forums for Quake or these video games, and, I grew up in those. And then you could see the schism, by the way, because you can see a bunch of people in those environments. They got to break left, and they got to sit there and they go, oh, well, I'm going to go with these people over here, or I'm going to get yelled at. And then you got a bunch of other people out there who just don't care anymore. And the more they bang on with this, their side ain't gaining any more people. It's the other side who are recognizing, because they're this attack on the culture that they're doing. You're making yourselves be hypocrites in a record amount of time. You used to be able to gaslight people, and the gaslight would last for a generation. Well, a generation's long enough for you to keep doing this stupid stuff. But when you keep doing this in 3-month intervals, you start red pilling people real fast. And that's kind of what I've been seeing, at least.
Salty, I always do like a background check of people, and I was looking for controversy involving you. And other than the edginess of your content, you haven't had any real hit pieces. Has the media gone after you for anything you've said, anything you've done, and anything you haven't said or anything you haven't done? Because I couldn't find
not that I know of. I don't think anybody. This show's stupid. This show's crazy. If you hear the things that I'm saying, and there's toys in the background, and I got a mullet and acne on my forehead, and the lighting's horrible, and I got a PVC microphone stand, I think I'm taking advantage of the fact that this is how this leftist elitist they operate. They sit there, they look for things that don't really mean anything, and I feel like we're some sort of MAGA submarine over here. We deep below the waters. They don't even understand that we're out there. And so I don't know. No, there might be hit pieces. I have no idea. But thank you for looking and telling me that there's none, because now I assume no.
I did a mild due diligence. I just wanted to see if you had like a PewDiePie N-word moment or anything like that. But other than the edginess, you seem pretty clean. What is your status now on YouTube? Because I remember once upon a time you were having big problems with the YouTube censors, strikes, suspensions. Have you pulled the YouTube plug, or are you still using that but focusing elsewhere?
Oh no, I always assumed YouTube wasn't going to work, and so we only use YouTube over here to get people to Rumble, get people to Odyssey, get people off that platform. And so we do the show for an hour or so on YouTube, and then turn YouTube off and try to get people to these other platforms. YouTube goes in and out, and every now and then I'll just delete all the videos, because you can see there's some sort of review goes on. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they'll hit you with stuff that you said 2 years ago that doesn't even make any sense. And so we don't put the streams, we don't leave the streams up. They gave me they gave me something like 4 or 5 strikes in one day, but because they gave me they hit me with one live stream and then hit me with a bunch of other live streams. And they said, well, because we already hit you with one, these are technically strikes. It was weird because they used to just wipe you out. That's what they did to Stefan Molyneux. They gave him like 5 strikes in one day, knocked him out. They gave me 4 or 5 strikes in one day, took down one video, gave me 2 strikes. They said, okay, this is how. So I just took all the streams down. And every now and then I'll get a strike. And then they'll kick me off for 7 days. It'll be under review for 2 months. It's like this, then I win the appeal, but they've already given you the 7-day strike. And
what is the and what's the basis? Is it typically medical misinformation, election issues, or just vague community guidelines?
It's crazy stuff. Like I threatened to kill somebody. Somehow I have never gotten a medical misinformation one. I say crazy stuff about this vaccine and the masks and stuff like that. I think the other thing is, I have a speech impediment apparently, and I am able to dip, dodge, and dive this algorithm. It has no idea what the hell I'm saying. And so if you just pluralize everything like one of these left-wing lunatics out there, if you talk like a left idiot, this algorithm doesn't know what you're saying, and it doesn't understand sarcasm at all either. If they can figure out how to AI sarcasm, then I'm in some real trouble. But no, it's always like I threatened to blow up Germany or something. It's crazy.
Now, how has Rumble and some of the other platforms worked out for you?
Odyssey was the first kind of other platform to reach out. They were real generous. They would give me like a library coin amplifier. I really screwed up library coin, guys. I was making extra content for them, hitting that library coin multiplier when library coin was like 30 cents a coin, and now it's worth like, I don't know, 0.3 of a penny. So that didn't work out in the long run, but it was awesome to build up these auxiliary platforms. We were doing great on DLive, and then DLive went crazy after January 6th. And we have a real good relationship with Odyssey, and we've just met the Rumble people. The Rumble people have been, I was concerned about Rumble because Rumble looks like it's going to be the next big one, and they got to play the game to a certain extent. And then the guy reached out to my wife, and we didn't even think it was real. We were like, no, whatever, bro. Like, you're not the CEO of Rumble. That doesn't make any sense. And then sure enough, she contacted Rumble itself, and they got into contact, and he was just like, hey, if you need anything, reach out to me. I'm like, holy balls. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Pavlovsky's a real deal. So
Yeah.
we may have talked about you a couple months ago.
Thank you, by the way.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's because, to his credit, because the easiest thing to do would be to back down. Easiest thing to do would be to do what DuckDuckGo has done, which has just become the mini-me of Google in their search engines. Now they're going to overtly suppress alternative media sites. But I mean, you look at this war was both COVID and, well, I'd say 3 things: the election fortification, COVID, and the war were 3 places where you were going to see whether Rumble was worth their word or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't take down anything related to election fortification, even if other language was used, even if other F words might have been used. Like fraud, and like, well, maybe the one my mama says I can't use. And then the same with COVID. They didn't take down anything related to COVID, and they haven't taken down anything. I mean, they left RT up, and Senator Scott, that establishment hack from Florida, actually went after Rumble specifically because they had moved to Florida. Going back to one of your earlier questions, what happens with Florida politically? And they said Rumble needs to take down RT right now. And Pavlovsky said, nope, sorry, not happening. We're not going to discriminate based on content. We're not going to have like people stalking people and harassing people online. We'll have some rules to stop that kind of thing, but we're not going to engage in subject matter censorship just because the topic's unpopular with certain constituencies. And so that's credit. I think people will see Rumble will continue to match their word because of Pavlovsky's personal commitment, but also, I mean, to his credit, I had said that if Rumble was serious, they needed to go public. And when they go public, say, we're committed to a free speech platform in terms of not discriminating and being politically neutral. In other words, I understand that if you're not going to allow people to like overtly, you're not going to allow either Antifa or the Klan to openly organize on the site. Okay, I get that. but no political based discrimination in these controversial topics. Well, they committed to that explicitly when in terms of raising money on the market. What that means is if they ever violate that, they have a mass class action that they face. If they ever start discriminating against the Alex Joneses, the Salty Crackers, the others, then they're going to be DOA because it's the only thing that gives them a market edge, and they'll face a massive class action. So I think people will see that Rumble's the real deal. But I understand why everybody was concerned because we've seen one after the other capitulate as they go along this path. Now, how you have your own site set up where people can go. You're also on Locals. I think it's saltycracker.locals.com. Got a nice community on there. I'm a member. Exactly. Go and check it out. Well, where else have you found other platforms that have been useful, and how do you sort of stay one step ahead of the censors and the algorithmic manipulators?
Again, to anybody who is thinking of doing this for a living, understand that you have to work every angle. We knew right off the bat, build up BitChute, build up Odyssey, build up. We started Locals. After I talked to the guy from Pavlovsky from Rumble, he was like, come on, just go over there. It's awesome. We take less money over on Locals. I'm like, okay, cool. Build that up. You have to build up all these other platforms because you will be hit. And then eventually, Rumble integrates really well into my own personal website, but we're prepared to just run everything through the website. Much like you have these canary in the coal mine. Like InfoWars is a spectacular canary in the coal mine. If you want to get into this game, you should prepare to have to make your own website. I want to ask you guys something real fast. So Alex Jones, with the Sandy Hook situation, being sued, he's filing. Sounds like he's filing for bankruptcy, Chapter 11. He's doing that to protect himself against these lawsuits, right?
Well, what happened is I can talk about it to a degree because I represented Alex and InfoWars during different stages of these cases. What happened is the plaintiffs deliberately sued a bunch of entities that they knew at least at certain points that had no assets. So they sue Alex, they sue Owen, they sue Free Speech Systems, which is the main InfoWars company, and then they sue every company that has the name InfoWars on it, right?
Well, they sued IW.
Yeah, they've sued Owen. These courts have issued default judgments against Owen for something they claim Alex didn't do. And by the way, what does this tell you? He gets a default judgment on the grounds that he didn't share financial information. And yet all this financial information is in all these plaintiff suits. So, I mean, these courts just lied. They just fabricated the law, fabricated the facts to railroad Alex Jones because they don't like Alex Jones. And what's happening in Austin courts is a disgrace. What's happening in the Connecticut courts is a disgrace. These judges are a disgrace. It's just the reality of it. I mean, he's getting sanctioned for sitting for a fourth or fifth deposition in a case he's not allowed to defend himself at trial, when normally you only get 1 day of deposition period in any case. So, I mean, the degree of discrepancy in these courts' conduct is extraordinary. You will find consistently that when the courts are sanctioning parties, 9 times out of 10, it's the politically disfavored party. It has nothing to do with the law or the facts. That's the reality of it. But so the plaintiffs sue all of these they sue Owen. They sue who also had default judgments issued against him, even though he had nothing to do with what they claimed was the problem. So it shows you how these courts are completely fraudulent, not serious. But they sue all these affiliate entities. So he's got all these affiliate entities, which, as described in the bankruptcy, don't have any assets. And so the plaintiffs should have dismissed it. But they refused to dismiss him because they want to make his life miserable, because they want to wage lawfare against him. So so they knew from the get-go, because I had told them, if you leave these entities in, at some point, these entities have to file bankruptcy to protect their function. But they refused. They're like, they wanted him to have to file bankruptcy for those entities. He himself has not filed personal bankruptcy.
So is InfoWars the entity that has filed bankruptcy? Yes,
exactly. The InfoWars system, InfoWars, all that is outside of this.
Okay.
It's just these affiliates that serve little technical roles. So they're just making life miserable for him, and he has to file bankruptcy in order to protect the limited role those entities play.
One of them was Prison Planet TV. The other one was IW Health, which I thought maybe that was one of the supplement
It
businesses.
didn't
that he
serve
had.
any purpose. It's just a name. There's nothing in it.
But now, Robert, they're going. The plaintiffs are going to petition the court to suspend the stay of proceedings.
Well, what they
I
should do
imagine-
is dismiss the chart. What they should have done from day one, 2 years
Dismiss the
ago,
defendants.
dismiss those other. But they refuse. They want to play games. They just want to make his life because they don't care about recovery for the. I mean, none of these people, even to my knowledge, at least almost none of them, wrote a single letter complaining about Alex for 6 years. Right. So they were so emotional. I mean, like, and what it is we're supposed to sit back and not talk about them because they had a horrible tragedy happen to them. At some point, you don't get to stand on the coffin of your dead kid to politically grandstand and violate the constitutional rights of others. Sorry, I run out of patience. These people, a lot of them are just scammers. They're just scam artists. They didn't complain about a single thing Alex Jones said for more than 6 years. And then all of a sudden they have a complaint. No, they're just money grabbers and political harassers. That's who they are. That's what they are. Nobody wants to say it because like, oh man, they had a tragedy happen to them. You can't question them. You can't criticize them. They're the second coming of Jesus. They're not. They're fraudsters, scam artists, and political harassers who want to violate constitutional rights and liberties to line their pockets with even more money, because a lot of them got millions and millions and millions from other places. And we're just supposed to, and I'm just tired of being generous about it. I'm sorry they suffered a horrible tragedy. That doesn't give you the right to violate other people's rights. That doesn't give you the right to be a scam artist and a fraudster and a cheat. To pretend that you were deeply emotionally harmed when you didn't even write a letter of complaint for 6 years. You didn't write a letter of complaint, but you were so bothered by Alex Jones, you couldn't even bother to write an email. Come on.
Robert,
that's my rant.
Well, and they did, from what I understood. Someone just said Barnes is furious. I can't even get that chat anymore. It's gone. Jones offered to the plaintiffs, like it was $150,000 each per plaintiff once upon a time, or not relatively recently.
I don't know what's public and what's not public, but
okay,
from the get, like there's this false story. I mean, the other thing about this that's totally false. People can go back and see what Alex Jones said on the night of Sandy Hook. He didn't say it didn't happen. He said it did happen. He just said, you know what the culprits are? They're not going to blame. They're not going to blame Hollywood culture. They're not going to blame the big pharmacy industries that is drugging up these kids with side effects of SSRIs. They're not going to blame the school system that didn't have adequate security and safety. Instead, they're going to blame the gun because they're going to use this as an excuse to take away people's right of self-defense, which is what the Second Amendment fundamentally is. It protects the most effective means of self-defense, but it's self-defense that it protects. And that's precisely what happened. Barack Obama, Piers Morgan said, I'm going to stand on the graves of these dead kids for my political purpose. How is that a good, moral, righteous act? There's nothing about that that's moral and righteous. And that's what they did. And months into the process, a bunch of other people, including professors of media, professors that are related to people who are school safety experts, professors of philosophy, came to their own conclusion, raising questions about what happened. And here's the reality of what happened. The school system didn't have basic safety mechanisms. I mean, since Columbine, you're supposed to be able to lock the inside of the door to protect kids. They didn't even spend the money for that because the politicians were busy pocketing it for other projects. But they were hiding that. And so people that are using FOIA requests are seeing the politicians are hiding, and they assume they're hiding something worse and more nefarious. It turned out they were just hiding their own corruption that was complicit in the primary reason so many people died that day. But instead of blame those people, which, by the way, the Connecticut courts have rushed in to cover up and hush up and hide and immunize, they blame Alex Jones, who they have 7 words out of 7 million, 7 minutes of words out of 7 million plus minutes of words he'd said over the 7+ years, and that InfoWars had spread. That's what they're talking about, where he raised questions about it years later. That's it. I mean, to blame him for Sandy Hook is absurd. And the fact that so many people are doing it is absurd. And these plaintiffs are not serious plaintiffs. Almost none of them complained one single time in 7 years. They just said, let's sue, let's line our pockets, let's make a political statement. And they think you can't criticize them because they suffered tragedy. Suffering tragedy is not immunity for bad acts. And the reality is Jones is being wrongly accused. He's being railroaded by a corrupt justice system that cannot do its job because his name is Alex Jones.
Yeah, they got to shut him down. This
absolutely. It's lawfare meant. This is a guy who had not been sued in 25 years of business. Donald Trump wins, and he gets sued more than 24 times in 12 months. Not just related to these cases. All of a sudden, they're trolling through every photo he's ever published. They're trolling through every video he's ever done. They're trolling through every statement he's ever made. And ask yourself, who's been more right than anybody over the last 2 years? Who was the only guy predicting that they were going to do something like this with a pandemic as a power grab? Who was the only guy predicting that the deep state activity was up to what we have witnessed it be up to in Russiagate and Spygate and Ukrainegate and in the Hunter Biden laptop related issues? It's this guy. I mean, and they try to take him out because they've had this agenda. They try to take him out because he helped Trump get elected, and they wage lawfare against him. And you had huge corporate law firms representing the original Pepe maker for free to go after Alex Jones. And of course, it turned out, yeah, he had certain intentions with that Pepe thing that were separate than what it was all about. And taking credit for creating Pepe is still, I mean, it is a frog, folks. It's a frog. I mean, how original is it, right? You know what I mean? I like the frog, but it's still a frog. But that it was pure war, pure legal warfare. And they're forcing him to take these defensive postures just to keep his business afloat and to protect its ongoing operational basis. But they're not going to sink Alex Jones. They're not going to defeat Alex Jones. They're not going to crush Alex Jones. The irony in all this, he probably would have retired after 2016. But when you decide to wage war on him, he's not going to go gently into that good night, because that's not who he is. He's going to rage and rage against the dying of the light, as he should and as we should.
Well, Salty, that was the answer to the question.
Yeah, that was a Salty inspired rant.
That's awesome. That's
and Salty, if you're anything like me, you're going to digest that. You're going to I have a big question in my head, and I can put I can start connecting some of the dots. Not in terms of not in theorizing, just actual what the events of the day, the events of the lawsuit. I've got a question I'm going to ask Robert privately. Salty, what here's another thing. What do you do for inspiration? How do you pick on the stories? I mean, are you you're following Twitter and just you see what people are talking about, or do you get tips from your crowd?
No, well, it's got to. So I'm trying to. I pull all these pieces, pull all these strings in from what people, and trust me, there is not a lack of content going on these days, and so there's a lot of different things that you can hit that are in the vein of what's happening at the moment. So essentially, what I'm doing is I'm trying to pull something that works. As I'm going through the news, as I'm doing all of this, I'm thinking of the stupid jokes that I can jam into the video, what the thumbnail might be for the video, this type of stuff. So when I find a story where all of that clicks in, that's when I know that I'm going to be making a video on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of innumerable topics, how do you vet some of the topics to me? Like these days, so many things look like parody to me. When I see it, I was like, no, that can't be true. That's got it. And then it's like, oh my God, it's true. How do you cross-check all this?
If there's something that's immediately video worthy and making fun of, and I haven't vetted it, I'm just open and honest. I just tell people. I have like the biolabs thing is a perfect example. The thing that got me kicked off of YouTube a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know. This is what people are talking about. This is interesting. It could be the case. It could not be the case. But the exact opposite of what these prostitutes are doing on these other outlets. I'm just being honest with people. Yeah, I stole that from Gerald Celente. I'm also honest where I steal my stuff.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
So yeah, I'm just. Usually on patriots.win, those dudes are really good about putting their sauce right in the comment section. And so if it's too good to be true, it usually turns out to be. But I always go through a comment section first. I always try to find other articles I'm just I'm not a journalist. Like I'm making fun of the stupid situation that we're in, but I'll still be more honest with you than CNN. I don't have an agenda. That's the thing. I want to get information out, and the information has to be accurate.
Have you noticed the same tendency that I've noticed? Is that when the story comes out, the harder the pushback from the MSM, in due time, the more likely it turns out to be true in its entirety or true in substance.
Oh, this is my new hobby. I used to be way into baseball, but my new biggest hobby is going out there and trying to be part of making these idiots over at PolitiFact and Snopes fact check stuff. And so when we go out there and we start hammering that Joe Biden pooped himself at the Vatican, number one, that's just fun to do. It's probably true. And then the best part of it is the cream, the icing on this cake is when they have to come out. They go, we give this 4 Pinocchios because we called him and he said that he didn't poop himself. Jen Psaki told us no. In fact, he pooped a rainbow out and he cleaned its pants. Like, no, idiot. Everybody knows he pooped himself. And we just got another one too. Oh, what did they? Oh, the handshaking with the ghost. When Joe Biden's completely
Well, that
lost.
was his 81 million voters he was shaking hands.
Yeah, it's 81 poltergeists sneaking ballots in. And then they just fact checked. I'm sitting there going, we own you. Congratulations. You might have the big towers. You might have satellites up in low Earth orbit, but you ain't got the energon that we have over here. And we are pounding you idiots in this info war. We make it you react to us.
With the pooping, I didn't talk about it because I from someone who I trust on the inside, and I don't have sources. I got confirmation that it wasn't entirely true or wasn't true. So I would, and even if it is true, look, who hasn't pooped themselves for one reason or another?
I've heard a bunch of people say that they go, I would listen to like the old Sturge show. I think everybody on the Sturge staff have crapped themselves. I'm sitting there going, I'm 42 years old. I haven't done that since I was like 6 months. My dad toilet trained me before I was a year old. Haven't pooped myself since. And I would tell you if I did. Look at this face.
Well, I'll tell you that the bunny thing, it looked like I was going to make a Donnie Darko reference because when he was staring at that bunny, it looked like Jake Gyllenhaal staring at the bunny from Donnie Darko. But Robert,
isn't that insane?
Yes, we live in a world where the Easter Bunny is running the White House. You know,
That's
a guy in an
crazy.
Easter Bunny outfit is taking the. I mean, that's why I say it's parody beyond parody. The Onion now is outdated because they can't stay ahead of the curve. Only Babylon Bee can stay one step ahead of this parody world because you have to be.
Did you see the video where the bunny one of the it's multiple bunnies and one bunny grabs him and he looks like he shorts himself during that. You go, oh, it's Easter Bunny. His earpiece is ringing off.
It's disturbing humor. Towards the end of Reagan, there was a little bit of concern that Reagan was starting to lose it a little bit. Nothing like this. He never lost it in front of the world like this. This is on a daily basis.
He didn't have handlers out in the open.
Humiliation on top of humiliation.
Oh yeah, he's got when he gets in the back, he's yelling at me. The dude's an anger addict, and so when he gets in the back, he's throwing stuff out. His tapioca's all over the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. I feel. Look, I stay off the making fun of this issue bandwagon, not because I think I'm better. I feel bad for him, and like I compare. How old is Joe Biden? He's 70, 74, 76,
78, 79.
Yeah, he's going to be in his 80s.
He's about the same age as my dad, and my dad is sharp as a tack compared to Joe Biden. And we still, we within family, we make jokes about getting
compared to Joe Biden. It's going to be a low standard.
I genuinely feel bad. I look at Joe Biden, and I do see my grandmother, the same face, the same look in the eyes when she was in a more advanced state of dementia. I don't know how it's gotten this far, and it's a testament to the system being controlled by forces beyond the token figurehead. But no, I genuinely feel bad about it. It's not even a source of. I feel better making fun of Kamala Harris with her idiotic statements on space that she thinks are like, what's the guy's name from? He's got the deep voice. He hosted the science show.
Neil deGrasse
Tyson. It's like she thought that was a Neil deGrasse Tyson moment in its spirituality. I can make fun of her, but Joe Biden, I feel bad. I feel bad for what's going on, and it's terrible.
Oh no! Listen, I feel bad too. Don't get me wrong. My best friend growing up, his dad just died of dementia. I do feel bad, but I don't feel bad when I'm doing it to Joe Biden because Joe Biden's a criminal. So just
he's the president of the United States. I was like, yes, he belongs in a nursing home. That's the point. So it's you don't get to be president of the United States when you're a dementia candidate. Sorry.
No. Yeah, I'm losing a little bit of my humanity. I'll be honest with you. There's aspects of me where I sit there and I go, oh man, I have got to rack up on some church points after this is all said and done, because you could just, again, I wouldn't have made fun of this dude 2 years ago, but here we are. And again, you call somebody a Nazi terrorist, this is what you get back.
And Salty, you're so in, what's the word? It's simpatico with your followers. Like one person in the chat, I couldn't bring it up in time, said Don't feel bad. He's a criminal, been stealing from American citizens for 40 years. I still feel bad for people who don't even feel bad for themselves. But
well, I mean, this is a guy who bombed a family in Afghanistan and then falsely claimed it was a terrorist. I mean, killed a bunch of kids. So it's like I have no sympathy whatsoever that he deserves all the mockery, savage mockery he's got coming. Yet I feel bad that for other people that have that condition, but I don't feel bad for him. Now, I think we got to let you go. What is where can people find you as like a one-stop shop, and also the backup places they can find you in case that's unavailable?
I don't know.
I'll put the links up there. You're at saltycracker.locals.com.
They could find the Salt Queen somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Just I think it's saltmustflow.com. Hold on a second.
Yeah, so yeah, I think the main website is
just saltmustflow.com.
That's like a one-stop shop. Has all the videos, has the memes,
You'll find
has
everything
the merch.
there. Oh yeah.
I'll ask Mrs. Salty to send me the links. I'll put it in the pinned comment on this stream when it's up afterwards. I know people are going to be trimming and clipping some of these for highlights, so go ahead. There have been some memorable highlights. Salty, what's your schedule like these days? You do daily live streams?
No. I don't know how. Listen, Alex Jones is probably a robot. I don't know how that dude can do that show every day. I only do 3 days a week. We do Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and then I do daily posts to Rumble and YouTube and those things, like a much shorter video. But locals now, I'm putting stuff up on there too. But yeah, three shows a week. It takes. I am not complaining. Don't take this as a complaint, because it's the best job on the planet. But it's a bit of a workout. I get a little bit animated and I scream a lot, and I try to put a lot of research into the topics. And so 3 days a week is all I could probably do at this point without the wife leaving me. And I can't listen, I'm only alive because she's around, so we can't have her leave.
Oh, well, I'm going to read. There was a $500 Rumble rant on Rumble, and it's from shall not means shall not. All right, that's a First Amendment. Second Amendment, sorry. Salty and Viva Live. Did she threaten to divorce you? I got my eye on you, Queen. Well, let's not stand on ceremony, gentlemen. Tell the world what you think, because the world will be better for it. Thank you very much. Shall not means shall not. And I'm going to read a bunch of other chats when you're no longer here, Salty. And Robert, if you're sticking around, but I don't want to do it with you guys here. Salty, fantastic as always. Man, that's fantastic. What if you have a word of wisdom or a word of humor that you want to leave us with? Inspiration, what would it be?
Oh, that's really putting me on the spot, brother.
What's your next video? What's your next topic going to be about?
Oh, I was going to make fun of CNN Plus already pulling the plug. I've been hitting that pretty hard on locals last few days, and it looks like they're going to skip the wind down, just fire everybody tomorrow. So I was going to probably hit that one up.
Yep. Chris Wallace, I guess, is going to be looking for a new job right away.
Can you imagine that dude? That dude's he definitely wants to strangle an intern. He wants to pull out some Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough energy, allegedly.
Exactly. He wants to go full Joe Scarborough on something.
Yes. He's like, oh man, this agent of mine got the coup for something like this and had a heart attack. I guess that's what they say. I don't know.
Salty, I love it. First of all, thank you for coming on. People do say, "Oh, you just talk to a camera." For you to have the humor that you have, the insight you have to have knowledge, and you have to be like up to speed with culture, politics, entertainment, and everything. You know, just to go to the Mika Brzezinski joke, some people might not get it. Google Joe Scarborough, you'll get the joke. Yeah, it's phenomenal stuff. So thank you, thank you tremendously for coming on. Let's do it again, and on any channel, on either of our channels. Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. This was. I was a little bit. I gotta be honest with you. I was listening to the first hour, and I was trying to eat something. I was sitting there going, "What am I doing?" I'm a mess. I'm a mess of a human being. So thank you so much for making this pleasurable. Absolutely. And the world needs more fantastic messes like you, Salty. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care. Robert, you sticking around?
For a minute.
Yeah, let's do it. So, look, I was going to say something about the Alex joke. No, it was about Julian Assange. I was going to talk about it before. Didn't actually get to it. So, everyone has been asking. Julian Assange has been. Well, we knew that I guess the order came down now that they've referred his case for a decision on extradition. Do you know what the process is now, or how that works?
So
like, is there still...
nothing's really changed in the sense that once the high court didn't get involved, there would be a formality of the judge of the British court saying he can be extradited. The key decision maker, once the high court said it was not going to get involved, that ended his judicial relief. It now shifts to the Home Secretary, and the Home Secretary can either say yes or no. The assumption is because she's part of the Boris Johnson regime that she will say yes and he'll be extradited. There's always if she says no, he's not extradited.
And then
so
is he released from jail? Then
he would be released.
Okay.
So if she says yes, then he's on a plane to the United States.
And if she says yes, it's going to be notwithstanding the fact that they refuse extradition, where the man might face the death penalty, which in theory he could face not on the existing charges, but on potential future charges.
Correct.
Okay, good. Chat, stick around, Robert. I'm going to read some of the chats from Rumble Rant, so I don't want to hold you for that. Robert, I mean, it was amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Salty's
I'll
great.
see you Sunday, if no earlier.
Will do.
All right, have a good one. People, let me read some of the Rumble Rants because I've been screenshotting them and I brought them up. Holy cows, is the chat going crazy on Rumble. There were some big ones in there. And I have some text messages that I can't read publicly, but I'll get back to you in a second, whoever just texted me. Yeah, some massive Rumble Rants, which I have not seen before. SERP, thank you for everything. $100 Rumble Rant, and there were many of them. Thank you for helping the Salt Queen. SERP, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this. American Citizen, Dusty Rhodes, Mick Higgin, Price is Right Review, Adrian CEO Supreme, Caffeinated Coder, The Black Cat OG, Snicker Pie Legend P Barnes, Captain No Beard, Space Pirate Ivan. Don't know what that is. I'm going to have to go Google a bunch of these. SERP says, big love to them. Oh, those are the chat before said, big love to the mods. Jim Russell, Crack-Galactica, American Floats, Wookiee Supremacy, Ghost Division, Von Salinator, Kelsey Cade, Jai Jack, That's Salty B, Pastor Shadley, If You, Salty Ethos, Jack Kemp, and then the names I just read. SERP, another one, says, stay away from the lefties. They will give you monkey STDs. I swapped the word there. And then we got Salty Scotch, said, thank you, Viva Barnes. Okay, people, thank you very much. Oh, and I see James Top is in the background now. This timing is working out exquisitely perfectly. We're going to go from Viva Solo for the first hour to Salty Legion for the second hour to a man who is walking across Canada for the next. We're going to do it'll be a relatively brief update, 15, 20 minutes. It looks from my text messages that I'm going to be on with Richard Serrett, Saga 960 or Saga 690 at 5:28 p.m. So if anyone's in the Mississauga region, 5:28. Got to walk a dog, pick up a kid. So stick around for that. But right now we've got James Top. I see him in the background. James, if you see me, I'm going to bring James in 1 minute. Okay. In the meantime, people, not only do I read the super chats, not only do I bring up comments, not only do I link in articles, it's like I'm like that all-in-one band playing the drums, guitar. I want to bring up some super chats here that I missed. Yeah, we need more salt. Salty. I love Salty Cracker. And my neighbor, you know who you are, Simon. Thank you for referring me to Salty Cracker. Once upon a time, he said to me, it's sort of like your content, but without a filter, or with that, with the sense of humor that I think I have, but I would feel guilty. I would feel guilty making certain. This morning, just as a testament, I made a meme that I said I can't even publish it. It's not outrageous. It's nothing. It's just that I think I would feel bad, and I deleted the meme video that I made. That was one heck of a live chat. So hold on, someone just said here, 10,000 subs down to 8. Recruited savants make lots of noise. That's not nice. What it is people came for Salty and they don't want to stick around for Viva talking afterwards. And I respect people's apportionment of times and what they do with their lives. It's a testament, however, to how active and loyal Salty's base is. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And thank you for making the chat a wild and salty chat. Okay. And with that said, now I see James Top. If he's waving, okay, I'm bringing him in. People, James Top, if you haven't seen the interview from a while back, go check it out. He is former military, protesting certain medical requirements in Canada. We did an amazing interview when he started his journey. He's now looks like he's with a bunch of people. Let's bring in James Top. James, sir, how goes the march?
It's going good. How are you?
Good. Let me just see if that's going to blow people's audios. I'm going to lower this down. Hold on. Let me see if the audio is way too loud. Do another mic check. 1 2.
1 2 1 2.
Okay, I think that should be good. Chat, let me know if that audio is way blown out on one end or the other. Holy volume. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna bring you down on my end. Hold on, just 1 sec. Edit mic settings automatically here, and I'll bring it down to like a 75. Okay, let's chart. Okay, let's try it again, James.
1 2 1 2.
That should be good. I'll lower it just to make sure a little bit. So let's see. There's going to be some people here who don't know who you are. Elevator pitch, James. Who are you and what are you doing?
I'm James Top. I'm a Canadian soldier. I'm marching from Vancouver to Ottawa to the War Memorial and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier because of, as you mentioned, a certain medical requirement and need to disclose our medical status that I have an issue with. And because of that, my objection to that procedure and my refusal to comply with the procedure and the disclosure of medical information, I've been placed on leave without pay from my public service job with the RCMP, and I'm also in the process of being released by the Canadian Armed Forces, where I was working as a reservist, and I had transferred to the reserves from the regular army back in 2019.
And by the way, this is all fleshed out in way more detail than some people in the chat even wanted at the time, but we got into it deep. James, so where are you now? It's absolutely beautiful behind you.
Well, yeah, it is. We're out of the mountains and we're in Saskatchewan. We've been here for just over a week now. And one thing about the prairies is that they just don't end. So we got out of BC, across Alberta, since we last spoke. Now we're probably about halfway, almost 3/4 of the way across Saskatchewan, and hoping to hit Manitoba in another 4 days or so.
And have you amassed any more people in your crew?
No, we still have the same amount of people, 9 people, except our friend Gavin had a personal issue that he had to go and deal with. And in his place, we got a new member named Dave, and he's part of the crew now in support, either driving the RV, marching, preparing meals, or doing various administrative tasks.
It's amazing. How many kilometers are you averaging a day now?
Well, we're trying to get up to 50, and we've been pretty good at that because what happened was that we went into a kilometer deficit back in the mountains for a variety of reasons due to the terrain and physical ailments, let's call it. But now we're going to make up for it because I'm not sure if you can see all around us here. This is the kind of terrain where we can kind of make a lot better time because we don't have to worry about going up and down mountains.
It looks flat. I see the mountains behind you. So I mean, it's just
No.
it's
Yeah, there's no mountains out here.
That's beautiful. Have you had any hiccups, any incidents, any tickets, any confrontations, incidents with police?
No, not really. It's been a fairly smooth ride, I gotta say. Like, the biggest issue we've had is, especially here in the prairies, and I'm not sure if you're picking up on this, but the wind's starting to pick up.
Yep.
And I think the day before yesterday, we had 40 to 75 kilometer-hour wind gusts. Trying to walk into that is a challenge. Good leg workout, though.
Well, I was going to say you sacrifice the mountains, which tend to break up the wind, for prairie flatness where the wind doesn't get broken up quite so much. So if it's not to your back, it's a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, walking into the wind is a challenge.
consider yourself lucky. The disrespect for veterans is appalling. From Nacho Daddy, which I guess means Nacho Daddy. Have you been? Has CBC, any of the mainstream Canadian media, have they reached out to you?
Well, interestingly enough, as we were coming into Regina, we did run into a camera crew just as the snowstorm was hitting us. So they took some footage. I didn't have time to do a clip show with them, but we gave them the press release, and there had been a tentative agreement that one of their reporters from CTV Regina would come out and do an interview, and that was a couple hours ago. We haven't heard from him since, and I don't imagine we will.
Well, I'm going to remember to clip this bit at 2 hours and 15 minutes. CBC, it might be a story that Canadians might actually have an interest in if you actually had to earn that traffic and earn those dollars.
Yeah.
This seems to be a story that I know people are interested in it because people keep reaching out to me. Some of them don't even know that I've already covered you, but I mean, it's good to see you again. Viva,
Yeah,
thank
good to see
you.
you too.
You have an excellent guest today. I left work early for this. So James, and you at the end of the day, you hit a new destination. What's that arrival like? What's the welcome like? And what's it like leaving the next day?
It depends on the, how do I put it, on the mood of the community, the weather, and the day of the week. So basically, if there's a lot of folks in the area who are kind of aware of what I'm doing and they have the time, then the welcoming committee is kind of, can be quite large. Coming into Regina, however, on a weekday, when there's a snowstorm, you don't typically see a lot of people come out. However, I will say there was quite a few hardy souls that came out, and it's fairly consistent. Even in the rural areas, 4 or 5 times a day, folks will try. I mean, we're right now in between a couple of towns. Like, folks will drive up, pull over, and say hi, and then typically when we step off again, we get up at around 6, have some breakfast, get to our start point, which is always the end point from the previous day. And given the time of day and the day of the week, not everybody can just, leave work and come and wave goodbye to us. So what I find now is, like, for example, when we left Medicine Hat on a Saturday, there was quite a few people who followed us, and a couple of them stayed for a significant distance.
James, if you can, maybe unplug your mic and plug it back in. It's breaking up a little bit. It might just be connection, so we might just have to live with it.
Okay,
James,
hold on.
Yep. Actually, no, talk now. That sounds actually much better, I think.
Okay.
No, that doesn't sound better. Maybe you're on Bluetooth, or you're using Bluetooth.
How about, can you hear me now?
That's actually better. Okay, good.
Okay.
James, someone asked about your GoFundMe. I'll put that link up as well. But have you been raising funds? Like, has it been going well?
Well, I mean, we have a fairly low overhead, and we've been working well with direct donations and fundraising activities through various groups that are kind of like putting on potluck dinners for us and stuff like that. So are you hearing that okay?
Yeah, I just have to lower your volume again.
Okay. So that's been working for us. However, how do I put this? We're kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now, and it concerns me a little bit. So what we have done, on the advice of folks who worked with the convoy, is we've become an incorporated company, I guess, if you could call it, a nonprofit, an incorporated nonprofit. So basically, Canada Marches is now Canada Marches Inc., and that's going to allow us to kind of set up some kind of donation campaign where we can, use it solely for the purpose of accommodations and fuel, and cap it off so that it doesn't get to some insane amount where, we're attracting the wrong kinds of attention. But at the end of the day, this will also allow us to have, pretty much perfect transparency in everything we do. Because, again, I want to reiterate to anybody who's not aware of what I'm doing, this is not, about making money or selling T-shirts. This is about me going to Ottawa and having a conversation with our government, because this needs to happen. They need to reestablish a connection with the Canadian public for whom they serve.
James, if I said GoFundMe before, I make sure to correct it. I don't think I did. I brought up a chat, but have you started a Give, Send, Go?
Yeah, no, not yet. We're waiting to get, so the papers or the certificate of incorporation are going on right now. And then once I get a business account set up, then I'll probably set something like that up, or some other kind of financing arrangement, of which I have a kind of an accountant who's helping us out. So I don't know enough about it right now to say how exactly it's going to work, whether or not it's going to be GoFundMe, Give, Send, Go, or some other arrangement. But it's going to take another week or so for us to get the incorporation paperwork.
Okay. And if your cameraman can turn the camera to your left, I just want to see. I see a farm behind you, or at least it looks like silos.
Yeah, it's a grain elevator.
That's just. I mean, this is the. I've never driven the prairies. I've driven from Montreal to Winnipeg, but and then I've driven from. I don't want to embarrass myself geographically. I want to say Calgary. Okay. to I don't think it was Calgary. I've driven to British Columbia to Vancouver from not all the way, but I skipped the prairies. And I know people say it's boring, but there is something beautiful about straight roads, the patchwork, the tapestry of the farmlands, the architecture, the buildings. Anyways, you're capturing it. I don't want to say, I'm not reading that. I want to say for the vets, we got some chats in there for you. And so basically, I mean, your days consist of walking, talking, and meeting people.
Well, no, it consists mostly of marching. So just again, to make that distinction, we're marching and keeping a pretty good clip, because we're marching with a purpose. We're marching together. So we're not doing a Sunday walk, but just to clarify that, our day consists of mostly marching. As a matter of fact, like 11 hours or so of it. Occasionally, in various towns and cities, we'll have gatherings and get-together. But I would say, if I was to give it a percentage value, it's 70% marching, 10% meeting people along the way, slowing down a little, and then 10% attending, going to various potluck dinners and stuff like that groups are putting on for us.
And so the media hasn't reached out. Any politicians reached out? Has Pierre Poilievre or Roman Baber, anyone in the Conservatives, reached out for an interview?
As a matter of fact, so as you're aware, we have mailed all of our letters and emailed all the members of Parliament. And we are starting to hear back from them, even though it is a slow process. And so we have gotten, I think, 2 positive responses. Is that right? Yeah, 2 positives from Conservatives who said they will meet with us in Ottawa in June. And then as far as interviews with members of Parliament or the Senate, no one has reached out to us to try to kind of, well, that's not entirely true. We did get a couple of responses from members of Parliament, such as Chandra Shear, who well, at least one of his staffers anyway, they want to know more about what we are and what we're doing and what we're all about. So that is kind of ongoing, in that we have responded with contact information saying, yes, we're willing to talk to you. And as of yet, we have not heard back.
Okay, interesting. Let me see here. Viva, I hope you can plan on marching with James and his team for a day when he marches into Ottawa. Yeah, if I can make it happen, I'll drive out. You know, if it's feasible for a weekend, I'll drive. I don't mind driving 10 or 12 hours in a day. I would love to get out there and you know, meet up at some point. But if nowhere else, James, Ottawa, upon your arrival, what is your anticipated arrival date?
I haven't. I can't say because there's a lot of variables. However, I can give you a no later than date, and my no later than date, barring natural disaster, is June 30th.
Okay. June 30th. That's a lot. Well, you know, I say that's a long time. We did the interview. It's over a month ago already, or give or take.
Yeah.
Tabarouette, time goes fast, and then and in the meanwhile, while everyone's living life, you're just slowly plugging away across our physical country. It says, Mr. Top, you are this is from Res Reports. Mr. Top, you are a true hero standing up for the rights of all of us, as is your crew. Thank you, and see you when you arrive in Ottawa. It's going to be good. All right, so, well, James, I asked it last time, but I want to ask it again because it's been a month. Have you had any magical experiences that you will never forget that stand out in your mind when you say, I can't believe that happened? And what was it?
Well, yeah, I gotta say, like, it's when I go to these events and, like, for example, Moose Jaw, I just recently in Regina, there seems to be more people being coming to these events. And the one talk I had in Moose Jaw was fairly emotional for me because it was the end of a long stretch of marching, and I just kind of wanted to tell everybody how, you know, what was my mindset when I decided I was going to do this thing. And, you know, it was emotional, and the support from the crowd was amazing. Like, it was, you know, it was like somebody, you know, when you're struggling and somebody kind of pats you on the back, or they give you a shoulder to lean on. That's what it felt like from the entire crowd. So that was kind of something special.
Yeah, and someone in the chat asked me, you know, it says, ask how you're doing. I mean, spiritually, how are you doing? I mean, there's not a shred of doubt in this mission that you're on. It's barring something unforeseen, you're making it to Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, there are days when you have this kind of like, you know, what the hell am I doing here? What makes me think I'm going to get this done, or makes us think we're going to get this done? And then you kind of be plugging along, and somebody will kind of pop out, and they'll say, like, for example, I met a vet from Coaldale, Alberta, one gray and dreary day, and he had been injured in Afghanistan in 2006 and lost a leg. And he came out to tell me how important it was what I was doing. So that's the kind of thing that happens on a fairly consistent basis, and that's what keeps this going.
Fantastic.
But other than that, I'm doing well. I mean, your body, we get tired, like we go about 5 days, take a day off, and our bodies are adapting to that. And, you know, the feet get a little sore, absolutely. But, you know, you go to bed, take a break in the evening, and then you wake up and ready to do it again the next day.
Phenomenal. All right. Is there anything? Look, we'll keep getting the periodic updates. Is there anything you want to share with the crowd while you're here as a last thought, as a last word for today?
Yeah, just for today, I just want to say thank you for the continued support. Please pass on to everybody you know about what we're doing here, because, you know, what I've come to realize is how important this is. Like, I realized it before, but every day I get folks telling me how important this is and what it means to them. So it's, you know, people need some kind of, I guess in these times that we're living in, they need something to hang their hopes on, and I'll do it.
Amazing stuff. All right. Well, we will keep in touch. You'll give us updates. I'll be in touch with your team, and we can do these periodic updates so people can see. Like, it's been a while. We sort of skipped over some of the Rocky Mountains, but it's beautiful. The prairies are beautiful. James,
Absolutely.
so I say, be careful. You're walking on the side of a highway, but you have a good team. You're well identified, carrying our flag with pride. Unlike some other members of Parliament. James, thank you. Let's be in touch, and you'll just message me, and I'll bring you back on, and you'll give updates. People can find you at canadamarches.ca, correct?
That's right. And from there, they'll get links to all of the social media platforms.
Okay, phenomenal. Let's do it again, James. Keep me up to date.
Sounds
We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one. Amazing stuff, people. It's not a stream until get over here. Oh my good God. Here we go. Winston says hi. Hello, everybody. I am Winston. You must listen to what I say. I don't know which voice is better, but this is Winnie, who's been sitting down here now for 2 hours and 30 minutes and 15 seconds. He's got to pee. Pudge the paralyzed puggle has got to go pee. People, this was phenomenal. Singularly unique, I would say. And I can still see James in the background. I can see what he's looking at. They're just walking. Well, they just cut out, but they're walking across the flats of Canada, and it's magnificent. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the Rumble rants. This was, I wasn't actually expecting such a turnout. Salty has a very dedicated, very invigorated, very an active base, and people who are eager to effect change, ideological change on the world, which is amazing. So I hope the interview was great. I think it was fantastic. James Top, now for those of you who don't know, marching across Canada, canadamarches.ca, and the stories we talked about in the beginning. Read the newspaper, know the questions to ask, know what questions are not being asked, know what information is not being provided, and then go out and find it. Come to your own opinions, come to your own conclusions, and educate yourself, and then educate others. And then for Coach Red Pill, we'll see it as soon as there's news. I'm not sharing unconfirmed reports, rumors, or things that I have my own questions about. I try to be meticulous and not get caught retweeting something or sharing something that's inaccurate. I'm trying to think of something that happened recently. Can't think of something that happened recently, but that's what it was. It was one of the key examples where I made it, where I understand that someone came to me after the stream and said, Viva, on the VAERS system, the numbers don't confirm, the numbers just indicate, and therefore that requires clarification. And I clarified it multiple times, on the one hand, to show the world that I will clarify and correct, and on the other hand, so that people understand, because more important than anything else, understanding and accurate information. The rees shall echo throughout the valley, people. I guess I'm going to go live at some point tomorrow. Why not? It's a Friday. There's no Johnny Depp trial, so and maybe we'll do an update. Maybe I'll get Legal Bites on with Ricada, and we'll talk about the trial and other fun stuffs that are going on the interwebs. Regardless, everybody, thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. Thank you for being here, and I shall see you probably tomorrow. Definitely Sunday for the weekly stream with Barnes. Maybe Saturday. Who knows? We'll see. Go. It's a little dark outside, but there's still some sunlight. Go outside, fresh air, exercise, healthy living, healthy spirit. Listen to some Sigur Rós. Sigurro, not Umla, but the 2 dots S. Sigur Rós. The album Takk, Takk ... has some of the most spiritually cleansing music you can get out there. It'll change your perspective. It'll rewire your brain, if I can use some of my wife's expressionry. So that would be what I have to say for the day. I'm going to go contact Richard Surrett's producer now, and I'll be on that radio show within an hour or so. And that's it. Peeps, see you on the interwebs. See you soon. Later. Peace.